2nd and 10. All day to throw it. Well, not quite all day. Maybe one play. Doyle doing it on both ends. On both sides of the football. This will be from...
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Inside the 15. With Bryce Young. Young is going to take off, run. And it's intercepted. Jaron McVay had it fall right in his hands. It was Braden Utley who delivered the hit on Sanders, who's thrown his 3rd pick of the day.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Empty backfield, 4-man rush. And that is intercepted. It's the Marcus Lawrence down the sideline.
We'll never see, but stuff that will be great for us. But Smokey is on vacation, so Paul and Craig taking you through to the next couple of days. And we've got a loaded up show today. Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com, comes on to talk about 3-6 versus 1-7, what's going on at the SEC meetings, other stuff in college football. Zach's great. At 4:30, Mickey Spagnola will talk Cowboys OTAs, plus the tragic loss of Marion Barber, what he remembers about the Cowboys' former running back. Craig Smoak's off the radar at 4:45. Kendall Count at 5:10 will talk about Baylor's roster now that June 1st is come and gone. We know where everybody's going to be, kind of looking at not only Baylor, but the Big 12, and then the top 5 at 5 for them to figure out how to get their maximum viewers. So John Wilner, who we've had on the show before, had 6 suggestions. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these suggestions for the Pac-12 to maximize their TV deal. And it could be things you could apply to maybe the Big 12 and other conferences going on down the line. Number 1, play early. Play some 9 a.m. kickoffs, because based on the numbers that they would get on John Wilner's, kind of extrapolating out, that would be 3 million, which most Pac-12 games don't really get. So how do you feel about 9 a.m. kickoffs in the Pac-12?
I live in the Central Time Zone, so fine with me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for the West Coast people to really, I guess, be up in arms over or have headaches about, the thought of having to get up that early. We tailgating at like 7 a.m. I don't even know what the tailgate scene's out there, quite frankly. But, I mean, that's part of the deal is that you just see them on randomly. I'll do a 7 o'clock Baylor game and have 3 hours of a game, which I did see, some of the things they're kicking around as far as shortening game ideas, including, not stopping the clock after incompletions. I saw that brought up, and I definitely think that college football games last way too long. I definitely am on board with that. They need to shorten these bad boys. But as far as that in particular, I think that would get more eyeballs on the product, because you'd actually have people awake to watch your product in the rest of the country. Now for the West Coast, that's where your fan base is. So again, they won't be probably too excited about the thought of 9 a.m. kickoffs. But if that means that you're on at 11 o'clock in Texas and you're on at noon in New York and Florida, and that's how you can get more people watching, then I'd rather see them play at 9 a.m. than at 9 p.m. Because how many people are watching at that point? I know I'm a sicko, so I love Pac-12 After Dark, and it's a way to wind down during football season is whatever random-ass games on there, like Oregon State, Washington State, at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I love it, and fans that are up at that time love it. But, yeah, most of the country's asleep. So that would get them at least in a time frame of when people are actually really tuning in. Yeah, and look, he also says, and I agree, I think they should play, I'm not, one night, not all 9 a.m. games a week, but Pac-12 could be the Pac-12 for breakfast and Pac-12 After Dark at the same time, because he also suggests that they play late, that they do continue those games and make sure that those games are not some of those games aren't just kind of random Oregon State and Washington State. Maybe it's USC and Oregon as Pac-12 After Dark to make people stay up, occasionally. Not all the time, but, maybe make those a little bit more marquee, or at least raise them to the mid-level as not to the low level. Yeah, if you want people to tune in to spice it up, having USC or Oregon or Washington or some of those schools in versus who we typically see, because it does typically feel like it's like Washington State, it's Oregon State, it's Utah, and hey, I love watching Utah, but Yeah, I mean, I do think that if you're going to have those late games, which you clearly are, then actually making some of those the teams that people normally tune in for does make sense. I wonder on those teams' ends, like a USC, how opposed they would be to playing, that late. Not that they don't do that on occasion anyways, but I'll tell you the biggest mistake that I feel like that they probably make is on the marketing side of things, because Pac-12 After Dark's like common lingo in college football. Fans know what that is. They know it's how you end your Saturdays, is whatever late games on, Pac-12 TV, whoever is playing is how you're going to wind down. If not that, then it's like some random Hawaii game, right? But I don't know, maybe they have advertised it well, but it doesn't seem like the Pac-12's really embraced the Pac-12 After Dark thing. And, maybe they have, and I've just missed out on it. I don't have the Pac-12 network like most people, and I don't feel like I've seen that many commercials really promoting it outside of just the normal commercials that we see. But if you tried to make that like your thing and really embrace it, and then, yeah, you got like USC versus – you wouldn't put USC Oregon in that spot, but USC versus somebody worthwhile. And spice it up and really like market it. It's Pac-12 After Dark. Like it's the big game for this conference that is unique because it's after dark.
Yeah,
I think that would be something cool, but they don't really do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do USC Oregon every single year, but I would maybe do it once.
Maybe once for like the first time or something,
Yeah, throw it out there, make it interesting. It's one of the bigger draws on that one. Play non-conference games in November. This one isn't possible during their current media rights agreement with Fox and ESPN, but could be written into the next one because, right now, the Pac-12 is like a lot of other conferences. Their non-conference is done in September, and that could shake things up and make things more interesting. Where you gotta all of a sudden USC will play Notre Dame in November. That'll happen depending on Notre Dame's schedule. Or that BYU was playing a lot of Pac-12 games. That happened, and those games got good ratings. So why not do that for everybody else?
Yeah, I'm not really big on the late switch out of conference games. I don't like when the SEC does it with the gimme game that they have towards the end of the year. And we've talked about that. I mean, I understand everybody plays those opponents, but I think the messaging behind it of like, well, everybody needs a break in the SEC. I just think that's kind of bupkis, quite frankly. I don't know that 1 week, or a couple week stretch really makes that much of a difference, but maybe it does. I see it more as this is a layup that we have towards the end of the year so we don't burn out our teams and we all stay in contention. That's how I see it. But, yeah, if you have obviously USC Notre Dame works well. I don't know how you'd set that up because I don't know how everybody's schedules are and what kind of premier opponents they would have. And you do have to have some of those earlier in the year. But I suppose if you could, sneak in a premier non-con game in like November or something, that would be okay. Yeah, I'm not as on board with that one, but I can see where there would be some attraction to that.
Yeah, all right. So his fourth suggestion would be adopt a pod system with pod A being the Washington and Oregon schools. So that's those four. Pod B being the four California schools, and pod C being the Mountain Desert or the Four Corner schools. So, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah would be that pod. And then that way it creates 3 annual opponents for every team. It's the only model that allows the California schools to play each other annually and preserves the Oregon and Washington game and guarantee the other natural rivalries.
I mean, sure, everybody's gone pod crazy. Like, everybody's talking pods, and I'm just like, okay, like
that might be the only conference where I really kind of support it working. I like the 3-6 model better. Something
yeah,
like that,
I do too. I think, what the SEC is apparently going back and forth over, everybody seems to feel like there's one solution that makes sense. I haven't given the Pac-12 as much thought just because they haven't been as much out there on the forefront of the conversation. But, yeah, I mean, if that preserves rivalries and somehow makes it more interesting for folks, sure. It's not going to affect me as a viewer all that much because I'm not a Pac-12 fan, so to speak, but – if that's coming from Pac-12 folks. So yeah, if you think that'll make it better, then sure.
Yeah. Number 5 and number 6, I'm going to say together, play the day before Labor Day and play the day before Thanksgiving. Because nobody really owns the day before Thanksgiving. It's a Wednesday, which that one I kind of disagree with because that seems like a MAC kind of a thing to do.
Yeah.
And plus, at that point in the year, do you want to have that really short week unless you can set it up to where you maybe play on a Friday the week before that, and then you've got a real wonky schedule on the back end, especially if you're a really good team and you kind of draw that day before Thanksgiving rivalry that year for the Pac-12. Now, the day before Labor Day, I think, is great. I think there's no NFL games. There's one game this year on the day before Labor Day, and it's Florida State versus LSU. So why not have a triple header of non-conference games on that day? That's something I think college football kind of misses out on. Like we talked about yesterday, not owning the month of December and now giving up more real estate in January. They could really own Labor Day, or the day before Labor Day, because, what else are you doing? What else could be on?
Yeah, I don't really dive as deep into this as some people do as far as like the weekends and whatnot. I mean, I do know that the NCAA has really relinquished their stranglehold on what should have been a stranglehold in the month of December and even parts of January, but particularly December. So yeah, I suppose if you feel like you can reclaim or you can claim a holiday weekend or a certain pocket of TV time that is not already carved out for some other entity, then and make it your own, then sure. I mean, I'm all for just marketing and people being able to promote as best they can. So if playing on one of those, holiday weekends or before or whatever it was, is a way to get more eyeballs on, a game and on teams, and you have more of an audience because of the timing of it, then that's great. I'm all for that, whoever does it and whenever they do it. But, yeah, college football needs to do more of that and less of here just handing it over to the NFL because we're all unable to see the bigger picture here. We're all too busy focused in on our cell phone pictures of ourselves. That's because that's basically what it is. Everybody's looking at their own small situation, which is not small to them, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a bunch of small compared to the bigger issues facing them. When everybody's being selfish, you have these bigger problems that come up, and everybody's selfishness and laziness and just, I don't know, being eye off the ball has allowed the NFL to claim more and more territory that college football had there for the taking, and they just let it happen. And if they can claw back and find some pockets for themselves to be able to carve that out and make that college football, that's great. But they miss some opportunities, which is every topic known to man when it comes to the NCAA. You could say that about missed opportunities.
Absolutely. Daniel Acton on the chat room. A&M in Texas used to be at 10 a.m. On Thanksgiving. It was moved to the Friday after Thanksgiving. I went to that game when I was a kid with my dad quite a few times at 10 a.m. Now, when you're a kid, it doesn't matter what time the game is. You're just going to get, I'm in the car and they tell me what to do. But
some more students and, are they going to get up for a 9 a.m. game after partying the night before? I know that's always a question, but typically, fan bases that got pretty loyal fans, they'll be there.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. If you've got a student body that's into the games, they'll go whatever time the game is.
I mean, and let's face it. We're talking about certain Pac-12 attendance. Does it really make a difference? I mean, it's not like they're packing stadiums left and right out there anyway. So, I don't know how much of a difference that would really make. I mean, I know USC is going to look massively different this year, but you've seen the stadium the last few years. Yeah. Very empty. Not nearly as jam-packed as it will be now with Lincoln Riley at the helm, so long as things go well there. But, yeah, I mean, you put it in the morning and, hey, people want to get up and go to it. That's great. Make it a bigger matchup. That should be more enticing for more people to go. And, I think if you were to say, hey, the SEC is playing a 9 a.m. game, there might be some people that grumble about it. But if it's a big enough game and they're, fans are passionate enough, they'll get up for a 6 a.m. game. It's all about the fan bases and how enthusiastic they are. I think that is where the Pac-12's hurt a little bit, is they probably have the least enthusiastic fan bases overall of probably the Power Five, and that's not a knock on them. That's just, I think that's kind of consensus opinion, that it's not as big of a deal out there as it is to the rest of the country. Now, it will be again because USC will be relevant, so all of a sudden we're going to hear all sorts of California fans talking college football, but besides that, it's typically looked at that way. So, you got to do what you got to do to keep building the sport. And maybe if at first they're a little hesitant to it, maybe the brand of football and the matchups themselves will bring people out early in the morning. But I know if they played a 9 a.m. game here, it would be hit or miss on as far as many people go. But the diehards, the ones that are there no matter what the opponent is, they don't need it to be a Big 12 team to show up. And I'm not talking about those that save up their money. I can only go to one game. We're not talking about you. Talking about just the fans in general that could typically go to any game, but selectively, that opponent's not good enough. I'm going to watch MTV or something. Like that crowd definitely exists, but probably for every fan base. But there would be diehards that show up at 9 a.m. no matter who they're playing. So I think they can make that work. Yeah,
I mean, I think you should. It just gives you more options, to get your your product out there, and it's good for college football. It's good for, look, I wouldn't care if I was, look, if Florida State was playing at 9 a.m. or I was covering a game at 9 a.m., I personally wouldn't care, but that's me. Look,
I look at it as I get out earlier in the day, enjoy the rest of my Saturday.
Look, Craig and Smokey and I have had to be up doing pregame shows at 6 a.m. enough in our lives that like a 9 a.m., kickoff would phase us none. Yeah, so
no, I'm glad those days are pretty much over. Thankfully.
Yeah, but it's just how it is. But yeah, I mean, I'd be all for it no matter where it was. And again, I'm all for college football doing things to widen things out so you have more opportunities to view things. So if that means that you can see more stuff, and part of the reason, Craig, you mentioned that everybody's kind of so selfish or kind of viewed on themselves is part of these TV times make it that way, where you're only going to really be able to watch. You're kind of in your little bubble, but if you want the sport to grow, like part of the reason the NFL is so huge is that, they've got games at every time slot that everybody wants to watch. So if you're a football fan, you'll turn it on while you're waiting for your team to come on. That's just kind of how it is. So they've done a better job in that than college football has, but college football also is not a league. It operates as a bunch of separate entities in kind of a loose agreement with each other.
Well, and there's 3 times as many teams.
Exactly.
Like you can't have, you can spread it out. You can spread it out all day long. You can spread it out from 12 to 12 on a Saturday and have games different every single hour if you wanted to do it that way. But yeah, you oftentimes have like 3 big games all on at the same time in the afternoon. And that splits the audiences, even though plenty of people have multiple TVs and are going back and forth. But yeah, that's interesting ideas. I think a couple of those in particular would certainly could be beneficial to the Pac-12 or to any other conferences that are looking to tweak things. I think everybody needs to be looking in the mirror and figuring out not how we can make the most money, which is typically what they do. It's how can we grow the fan bases? How can we make people care more? Yeah, you're going to have your diehards that are going to care no matter what. But how do we grow our audience? That's what they need to be worrying about, not so much the money figures, but it's college athletics after all, so the money will come first. But I think everybody is at a point now where everything's changing so much and the landscape's shifting so much that if you're going to get creative, now's the time. And I think the most creative folks are the ones that maybe don't have the biggest budgets will be able to create a nice little niche for themselves in this current landscape. But, the Pac-12, we'll see what their TV deal looks like. That'll be very interesting. I think the USC Lincoln Riley timing is really a boon for them. And outside of that, I kind of wonder what would be the excitement level, because I don't know what it is. Quite frankly, UCLA and Chip Kelly are pretty good. Oregon's probably going to be pretty good. Utah's going to expect it to be good. But, overall, what's really the story is USC and Lincoln Riley. And without that, I sort of wonder timing-wise. Lincoln Riley's not going to make their contract go up by $20 million, but I bet you it does make it a lot more enticing than it was when Clay Helton was the head coach at USC.
Well, and I wonder if there was, maybe not pressure, but suggestions from the rest of the conference, like, hey, can you guys help us out and, do something here? Or at least not the conference, but, the powers that be around it, like, hey, make sure that this hire is good, so that, there's more.
Yeah, I don't know if they do that. Hey, USC hires somebody good so we get a good TV deal. But
I think maybe Kleofkov would be like the people at Pac-12 office would be like, hey, think about this a little deeper than just like, should we just keep Clay Helton here? And I'm not trying to knock the guy, but he was not a USC head coach. Like, that was not what his path should have been, and it, also took a new athletic director and a new, view and new people giving money and injecting that into the program for them to kind of get out of this, like, hey, this guy won the Heisman Trophy. Should he be the athletic director? Oh, this guy was really good in the NFL. Should he be the athletic director? Was he qualified? Is he a fundraiser?
Well, I think they saw the writing on the wall when they realized that the gap between them and the eastern half of the country was growing larger and larger. I think that's what they saw. I don't think that hiring Lincoln Riley had anything to do with the Pac-12. It had more to do with the USC, but I think the Pac-12, like I said, timing-wise got very lucky because if it was still just Clay Helton sitting in that role, I don't know how much we're talking about what the Pac-12 could potentially make. We're talking about it, but again, what's exciting about it? Mario Cristobal's not at Oregon. They got Dan Lanning. That's great, but, is there an excitement level there outside of Eugene? I don't know. I don't see it. I don't feel it. I see less Oregon right now than I saw when Cristobal was there on my timeline. Maybe there's just less Central Texans they're recruiting or something. I don't know. But there's not like a palpable buzz coming out of Eugene right now.
Yeah.
It's just like, we'll see what happens. UCLA is just like, we'll see what happens. Everybody's pretty much, Utah's like geared up, like they're fired up, but outside of that, USC is like the story in the Pac-12. Washington's just, they're there. There's a lot of teams capable of being huge brands, but outside of USC's buzz over a coaching hire, not even the on-the-field product, that's the only buzz coming out of that conference right now, really. So, again, timing-wise, for the TV contract to be coming up and negotiated, you have this buzzy, shiny brand that is your beacon, that is your big, huge franchise that is now feeling itself again and actually getting money poured into it again because the fan base is excited again. So that's what I'm just saying is timing-wise, it worked out well for them because there's actually some excitement around the Pac-12. I don't know if that'll make a difference as far as the money that they're going to be approached with, but I think it could make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com, breaks down what's going on with the SEC and their scheduling model and who is slowing it up. Plus, he talked to Gary Patterson about his role at Texas. Curious to see what Gary had to say to Zach and if there was maybe any fables he brought up, because Gary's a fantastic storyteller, and that's the nice way I'll put it.
I don't really enjoy talking about him, but at some point, too, we need to get to the Baylor quarterback move. That was a pretty big deal because it's
we got a couple minutes
telling.
Here, so go ahead. Yeah.
Well, they added Louisiana Tech grad transfer Luke Anthony to the roster today. We thought that they might kick around some ideas as far as, the quarterback depth and all that. And I was surprised. I saw some people going, well, I didn't realize their depth was an issue. It's like, then I guess you weren't paying that close of attention, because how did you not realize? That's what we've been talking about quite a bit, actually, is Blake Shapen being the guy. And, when you have two starting quarterback candidates and one of them leaves, like, guess what's affected? Depth. So I don't know how people didn't realize that depth might be affected when all of a sudden you have three quarterbacks. One of them's played all of 3.5 games. The other two have not played or barely played.
Kyron Jones had a snap in the Big 12 championship.
He's had a handful of snaps. That's all he's had. And then the other guy, C.J. Rogers, is a walk-on. Yeah. So they've got two scholarship quarterbacks. So I don't know how anybody's like, geez, didn't know the depth. That two scholarship quarterbacks. Of course, it's been an issue, and it's something that's been widely talked about. I don't expect people to get on Baylor podcasts and all that, know every little dirty detail. But, look at the roster. It's clearly an issue. And that's why it's been probably one of the bigger topics is what happens if Blake Shapen gets hurt. That's probably been the topic, actually, of the entire offseason is people worried about Blake Shapen getting hurt because they saw him get hurt last year, and he's not the biggest dude in the world. So they addressed it, brought on quarterback Luke Anthony as a walk-on, and, he had a pretty nice career at Louisiana State. Could rattle off all the numbers and all of that. He was also at ACU as well before that. So another arm and another body and a guy who's got some experience. I don't know where that places him as far as the pecking order of, who they go to first off the bench if they need to do that. But they have a lot more experience now than they had before signing Luke Anthony. But it's also a bit telling that, they realize, hey, this thing could evaporate quickly, kind of like Seth Russell's depth chart a few years back when all of a sudden you had Lynx Hawthorne handing off the ball as a wide receiver turned quarterback because they had nobody left. So to avoid that, they've added another body and welcome to Luke Anthony.
Well, and it affects Kyron Jones in no way because it's a grad transfer. It's not like you're bringing in a guy who's going to stunt his development. If he is the next guy, you're protecting everybody with Luke Anthony. That's what you're doing. So I like the move a lot. And he was the Conference USA Freshman of the Year, I want to say, or Newcomer of the Year.
Sure.
Something like that. His first season at Louisiana Tech, he won an award, whatever it was. When we come back, Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details. Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming savings event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Welcome back. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, Levi, who this is the last time I'm going to call him by his actual name today. Trying to take him down a peg or two, and Emery. We're joined now by Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. And if you don't go to footballscoop.com, you should. It's a great website that, they just have every kind of football news you can possibly imagine, especially for college football. They do a great job. And Zach Barnett joins us now. And Zach, right now the big story nationally is, what is the SEC going to do about their scheduling model? For years, they were very adamant about staying at 8 games. Now that they're about to have 16 games, a 9th game makes a ton of sense. The popular model is 3-6, but some teams are holding out, hoping that they do 1-7, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Where do you think this will eventually head?
I think with any of these issues in college sports, or I guess in business in general, you follow the money, and there's far more money to be had in expanding the 9 games, both on the front end or on the large scale, because that's 8 extra games you can sell to ESPN, and that's another game you can sell to season ticket holders. Another game of concessions, and on the money train rolls. I mean, I think the goal here is to diversify the SEC schedule that everyone in that conference agrees has grown stale, and to go to the 1-7 model where you would lose annual games like Auburn, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. I mean, it feels like a step backwards. In reality, it would all be done to protect, the Arkansas and the Kentucky's ability to make the Birmingham Bowl. Like it seems real penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty clear to most people, Zach, that this 3-6 seems to make the most sense. What argument do you think there is, if any, for the alternative?
I read a story today about how I think most people expected when the ADs got in that room yesterday, they'd hash it out and come to a pretty quick consensus that most of us got to, which is the 3-6 model. And then I think some minds were changed during that meeting towards the 1-7. I can't sit here and say who's on what side, but I think it's much closer to 50-50 than it was before the meetings. And I think the concerns are twofold. One being the bowl bids, and two being access to the college football playoff, because as of yet, we've yet to have a 2-loss team make the playoff. And so I think some are arguing that adding another conference game would be the SEC, cutting off its nose to spite its face. But that ignores the reality that outside of the SEC, right now the SEC is the only conference that would be okay with keeping the playoff at 4 teams. Everyone else wants it to expand. So it's going to go to 8 or 12. And then at that point, the SEC and the Big Ten will probably both get 10 and 2 teams into the playoff. And at that point will become irrelevant.
Yeah, it seems to me that like every argument you hear against either expanding the playoff or changing the schedule is, what if this very specific and rare situation would happen, which I don't think is a good argument for anything.
Yeah, it's very small-time thinking. I mean, what best serves students, fans, players is to be able to play SEC teams as often as possible. What best serves TV partners and therefore the money people within the athletics department is to play SEC games as often as possible. So clearly, those two constituencies are far best served by the 3-6 model. And so I have to believe that's still going to be the one that wins out in the end.
Zach, the SEC spring meeting's going on. There was a lot of talk, a week ago about, Saban and Jimbo going to be in the same room. It's not turned out to be much in terms of, actual drama or anything like that. Quite the opposite, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those guys said what they need to say. Jimbo, in particular, got what he wanted out of it. He said his piece and won the exchange. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw the story that the A&M baseball team basically painted a mural of him in the dugout of the SEC baseball tournament. I mean, his approval rating within Aggie Nation is about 150% right now. So there's really no reason for them to get into it. I'm sure tensions will flare again on the recruiting trail or in October. But really, I mean, what it boils down to is an issue of semantics. I think no longer is it a pejorative to say that a coach bought a player or a recruiting class in right, wrong, or indifferent. And Jimbo took offense to that when really he could, if he just come out and said, we're ahead of the game here. Our staff and our fans have done a great job, and they've put us in a great position to succeed. Then this whole story would have been a big nut. This whole story would have even been a story.
Zach, one thing we haven't talked about on our show yet, but I thought it was an interesting story, and I saw it on the website, and it's outside the SEC. But Jeff Brom, a week ago or so, was doing an interview, and they asked him about not taking the Louisville job, and he said, look, he likes Purdue, but it's year 6, and you never know what's going to happen in the future. But the Louisville job isn't obviously open. Scott Satterfield had that job, but he's not really all that popular there right now. How do you and he's responded to it. How do you see that situation playing itself out in Louisville, especially now that they have a new AD who may not want to be saddled with Scott Satterfield?
Yeah, I mean, Scott Satterfield's certainly on thin ice at Louisville, especially given the fact that, Louisville has after enjoying a long period of time as the premier program in that state, has certainly fallen behind Kentucky football in that state. They're just kind of a drift in the middle of the pack, anonymous program within the ACC, which is not that great of a conference right now. And then the fact that I don't think he's ever really gotten over, at least in the minds of a lot of fans, of him, interviewing for the South Carolina job in 2020. And now here you have, literally the crown prince of Louisville football and Jeff Brom, who's, the son of a former Louisville quarterback and Louisville high school coach who says he'd be open to it. And yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Scott Satterfield needs to have a really good year. And you look at their schedule, as I wrote about in our article, their first 9 games, probably 7 of them could go either way. They get South Florida, which should be a win. They open against Syracuse. They should beat them. They play James Madison. They should beat them. The other 6 really could go either way. And their last 3 are probably, as of now, probably losses. They close with Clemson, NC State, and Kentucky. So if they go into those games, something like 5-4, something like that, they could be staring a 5-7 season right in the face. And then at that point, the Jeff Brom talk starts to heat up big time.
Zach, we've, obviously anybody covering college football these days has spent a lot of time talking about NIL, talking about the transfer portal. Now we've got all these leagues, doing away with their championship games, trying to streamline scheduling, trying to just figure out ways to kind of shake things up. And we've also discussed before how the NFL has seemingly just taken all this free land that college football has given them, especially in the month of December, and gladly taken it. As college football as a whole is shifting and changing in every type of way imaginable, what do you think is imperative for the sport overall, or what moves would you like to see the sport overall make to further establish its foundation or to maybe grow a bit?
I think some sort of NIL standard baseline would be great. I'm not holding my breath because at this point it seems like only Congress has the authority to step in there, and they certainly don't seem interested in that. But I think ultimately, college football's problems are on the field, and I think I really think if A&M, if Texas, if USC and Miami can get their act together, then this monopoly we have at the top of Alabama, Georgia, throw Ohio State, the SEC powers as we think of them, plus Ohio State, that monopoly could break up. And if you have some real parity at the top, then this sport becomes really, really fun to follow, at least during the season again.
Zach, what do you think is going to, you mentioned 8 or 12, what do you think is the best model, and what do you think that they will eventually do on the playoff?
I mean, I still think the model that they originally trotted out there, the 12-team playoff with 6 auto bids and 6 at-large bids, I think that satisfies the largest numbers of concerns. I think it already would have been passed if not for A, Texas and OU joining the SEC, and B, if not for the Big Ten, bizarrely throwing in that they need an auto bid, even though I don't think there's ever been a time when the Big Ten champion has been the 7th highest rated conference champion. I don't think that's ever happened. But for some reason, they felt like they needed that protection. So at the end of the day, I still think that satisfies the most needs because that makes the most money. And, as I said in my first answer here, usually whatever makes the most money for the most people ends up winning out.
Would you consider the winner of an SEC playoff the national champion?
No. I mean, usually there's at least one team out there that has to that can make an argument. And first of all, I don't think that an all-SEC playoff is anything more than a bargaining chip. Mm-hmm. And second of all, I think if it were to be done, I think it would be done with the idea that the all-SEC winner plays the alliance winner, for lack of a better term, and it it's set up mirroring the old Super Bowl when it was the AFL and the NFL.
Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. Zach, thanks so much for hopping on with us today. And again, like I told people, if you're not on Football Scoop, you got to be on Football Scoop. Great website.
I agree.
Yeah. Hey, we'll ask you real quick because you guys do delve so much into the football. How about Tim Brewster going to Jackson State?
I mean, that guy has just been all over the place, hasn't he?
Right.
I mean, that right there told me. I think we've all believe that Deion's prepping for an eventual Power 5 move, and that right there is a move that he's getting that guy for the next job.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. Yeah, it is. And I wonder what that job will be. As a Florida State alum, I'm very curious about it. Very, very curious. Because, the kind of rumors, Zach, I don't know if you heard this, but like his interview when they hired Mike Norvell, everybody kind of thought like, they're giving Deion kind of an interview because he's Deion, but they said apparently his interview was great. They just weren't comfortable making that jump right then. So,
Oh, I believe that. I believe the entire reason he took the Jackson State job was to eventually get the Florida State job. If Mike Norvell, goes 12-0 this year, I think he would, take another Power 5 job if offered to him. But there's no doubt in my mind that this entire mission has been to get the Florida State job.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. Like, look, it's been too long since the glory days. Zach, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. And again, get on footballscoop.com.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. And yeah, Tim Brewster, if you asked, could I see your resume? It's supposed to be one page, right? When you go to a job interview, there's no way he could do that.
No.
There's no way.
No, dude's literally been everywhere. I mean, I think the list of where he's been is longer than where he hasn't, and probably not really the case, but that's certainly how it feels. I mean, he's been in nearly every conference, Power 5 and outside at this point, now going to Jackson State. So, yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting move. Tim Brewster obviously has a lot of Florida State ties as well. So that's not lost on me when you talk about Deion and the Florida State job, although he's got ties everywhere.
Yeah.
He's been at Texas. He's been, all over the place. So
he's a guy who's been at a lot of schools and their rival. He's been at Texas and Texas.
Yeah, he does. He's got no loyalty.
And
I don't mean that as a negative either. He's actually a guy who has no loyalty for good reason because he's loyal to everybody. He's just, he's not a one-team guy. He's just a whoever needs me at the moment and what makes the most sense. And I think that's probably benefited his career quite well, just the connections that he made, and probably his pocketbook too, bouncing around and being as coveted as he is. Been at times. And, yeah, I mean, that's a big boy hire for Jackson State, I feel like, and certainly one that you could look a little further into and feel like, that's not just a move for right now, that's a move for the future of Deion Sanders as well. That would not be surprising to me at all.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back and want to dive more into the Luke Anthony quarterback thing. We didn't get to kind of really get into it next, but Baylor has a new quarterback on campus. His name's Luke Anthony. He's a grad transfer. He is technically a walk-on, but he has more experience than most walk-ons that you'll ever see. That's next. This is Sikkim 365 Radio on 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And mentioned before the break, we talked about it earlier in the show, Baylor has a new quarterback on campus. His name is Luke Anthony. He was at Louisiana Tech by way of ACU. So this is the third stop for him in his college career, but he will become as a grad transfer walk-on. And Craig, the depth took a hit when Gary Bohannon left. I mean, that's it. There's not a lot of experience depth, and there's not a lot of – look, even if he stays, the question about depth and injuries, because both of them got hurt, within a game of each other last year, and Baylor had to navigate – would Gary Bohannon be healthy enough to play in the Sugar Bowl? Hamstrings aren't easy, and obviously he was, but played probably his worst game in a Baylor uniform in the Sugar Bowl, and even in spite of that, Baylor still won. So the quarterback position, while it's Blake Shapen's job now, there's still a lot of flux behind him in that there was no experience in Kyron Drones, who's a highly thought of, player, but no real snaps to speak of, in key situations, and then C.J. Rogers should walk on.
Yeah, I mean, they're low on depth, and that's been, a problem for them, quite frankly, for going on like a decade now. I mean, you really think about it. Seth Russell, go all the way back to him, and the fact that he got hurt and you inevitably got to a point where Chris Johnson gets hurt against Texas and Lynx Hawthorne is playing Wildcat quarterback. And after that, you had the Charlie Brewer years, switched back and forth with Jalen McClendon, like kind of, sort of. McClendon was a guy brought in much in the same way as Luke Anthony, except for McClendon was a scholarship guy from NC State who, was not going to start. And so he had, I guess, a connection of some sort with the rule staff at that time, or however that came to be. They brought him on. He didn't play much. Charlie ended up, kind of being the guy. But it was always a hold your breath and hope he doesn't get hurt with Charlie Brewer too, and they clearly, didn't have a lot of confidence in the guys behind him at the time. And one of those guys at one point was Gary Bohannon, but he had basically no experience. And then now Bohannon finally has his experience, and he gets hurt and Shapen gets hurt. I mean, it's just been, you really think about all the injuries they've had at quarterback. They've not had just a guy stay healthy for an entire year really at all in like the last decade. I mean, barely. I guess all the way back to Bryce Petty would be really the last time you had a guy that he's healthy, he's good to go.
And he missed the game for an injury.
Yeah, he had transverse process.
Yeah, but that wasn't that bad. But, yeah, he was the healthiest one.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're going to have, odds are, just based on history, a guy probably go down at some point, and you can't really bank on that, but you almost can at this stage because of how often it's happened. And so, again, I mean, it was a big topic throughout the spring, what would happen, but I don't know what they could have done differently. I mean, I guess you could have argued to save their depth. They could have just said that Blake and Gary were still neck and neck and they needed to bring him into the fall. But then, Dave Aranda clearly felt like, that wasn't the right thing to do for Gary or Blake personally. And certainly, now if you're looking at trying to build a team throughout the summer, which they're very clearly trying to do because they realize, hey, this isn't last year's team. Like, it's been fun talking about the championships and all that, but that's over with now. That's done. That's months old, and it doesn't have any bearing on who this team is next year because they could just as easily go over as go and repeat what they did. So, you need somebody to come in there and be the leader. And if Gary Bohannon was going to stick around, or if the shoes were reversed and Blake Shapen stuck around to the fall to continue competing, there's nothing preventing the guy who loses out in the fall from still entering the transfer portal, right? So you were kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, I guess if you really wanted to try to rig the system, you would have, I guess, felt like Blake Shapen was a starter. But because you're worried about depth, hold on to Gary Bohannon and just drag him along and then see what's what in the fall. And if nothing's changed, then Gary Bohannon's probably still going to the transfer portal, or you name Gary Bohannon the starter in, mid-August and Blake Shapen's entering the transfer portal. And maybe, just maybe, you get lucky and they both stay throughout another whole season. But I think those odds are very slim, so I don't know really what they could have done differently. What really kind of screwed them was not taking a quarterback in the high school class. Mm-hmm. And I understand why they did that ultimately, but I don't think that just because I understand it means it was necessarily the move that's going to be the right move when all is said and done. I don't know if we'll look back on that and go, that was a mistake. And, they did it for a reason. They just felt like we're not going to, just give somebody a scholarship to get a quarterback in here. You don't want to just have a guy sitting, eating up a scholarship for 4 years just because you needed a depth piece. But, at the same time, yeah, it could come back to haunt them. And clearly in getting Luke Anthony, they feel like they needed a little bit of security, and he may never see the field. Like, that's the thing. Blake Shapen might stay healthy the whole season, but just history says he probably won't. I don't know what this means, if anything. I don't know where Luke Anthony fits in the puzzle. If Shapen goes down, I would think it's Kyron Drones up first. Yeah. At what point does, though, Anthony become the guy? Is he ahead of C.J. Rogers? Is he the fourth guy to call? Is he the absolute emergency break glass guy? What is he? All we know right now is he's added depth and he's experienced depth, and they have very little depth and they have very little experience. Even Blake Shapen doesn't have that much experience. So if you're looking at a weak point of Baylor football next year, at its best, Blake Shapen can be a really good quarterback in my opinion, but that's at its best. If anything goes awry, then yeah, there's major question marks that pop up for sure.
Absolutely. And there are coaches that, their recruiting philosophy is a quarterback in every class. But then, you know, they're feeding the transfer portal more than anything really. Because, again, you only have one of them on the field, but they're...
Jacob Zeno transferred in, September last year. Mm-hmm. He saw the writing on the wall of, I'm third string, I'm out of here. So, again, that goes back to, I'm sure there's some people, and I think I saw one or two comments of, Aranda handled this horribly. Now, look, they got to go get this guy because they ran Gary out. But, again, I'll go back to what I just said. Somebody was leaving no matter what. It was just a matter of who and when. Is it going to be Gary Bohannon or Blake Shapen leaving post-spring, or is it Gary Bohannon or Blake Shapen leaving in the fall? Because either way, one of those things was probably going to happen. So I don't think it really made a damn bit of difference the handling of it. I think that the biggest thing was not taking a high school quarterback, which they had their reasons for doing that. And then, having Jacob Zeno transfer last year right as the season was underway already, that left you in a bit of a pickle. So you may read this as a red flag, Luke Anthony, but I just think it's smart to have another guy in that room that is there in case you need him.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree with that because again, he's played.
This isn't a guy coming in to be the starter.
No,
that's the thing. If he was coming in to compete for the starting job, then I think everybody would go, wait a second, what the hell is this about? That they just had a quarterback competition. If that was the case, I think people should be really worried about the state of the quarterback spot. But he's not being brought in to start. He's being brought in to help out if they need some help. So I'm not too worried about that. But there's valid questions. And, now they got to, worry about their upcoming quarterback class because they've got Austin Novosad who's committed. But he's been steadily stacking up offers. And he's obviously becoming a more and more coveted guy as the quarterback chips kind of fall into place. And here comes Ohio State offering him yesterday. And, I know if that was me, I don't care how much I love a certain school. If Ohio State calls, I'm listening, right? I think anybody in their right mind would. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out and who else maybe joins the party and who else maybe garners his interest. But they got to do everything they can to hold on to him because they can ill afford to take some backup option at quarterback after not taking a quarterback last year. I just think that suddenly starts to pile up and becomes an issue to where, depending on how Shapen does, you might have to go and grab a couple quarterbacks next year. You know what I mean? So that will be interesting to see how the Novosad recruitment plays out. If they can hold on to him, though, that will be a massive win. But, yeah, it's interesting because, we talked to Bryce Petty the other day. I mentioned Zeno transferring, early in the season last year when he saw the writing on the wall and the fact that somebody was transferring out of Bohannon and Shapen anyways, and it just shows you how hard it is to really keep a quarterback room intact these days and how delicate of a situation it can be and how quickly it can turn from a strength into a weakness. And I think right now for Baylor, it's looking a little bit in the middle, and we won't really know much more about that until we finally see them out on the field.
Yep. All right, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back. More talk on the show. I'm actually don't know what we're going to talk about the next segment. We'll figure it out. Stick with 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We'll jump into the chat and text, which we haven't done. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas on SEC scheduling and what it should be. So we'll take your comments then. And then at 4:30, Miggy Spagnola, Cowboys OTAs, and plus the tragic death of former running back Marion Barber. This is Sick 'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed. Smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long-distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients, who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Shaker, a soft loft, and it's caught inside the 10. Drew Estrada.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. Smokey's on vacation. Then Jack and I will be revamping the studio. We're going to put laser beams in here. What else, Jack? We have like a disco ball, popcorn cart.
I think the stripper pole recommendation was a little inappropriate, but that's all right.
You know, I mean, we're not sure we have the tensile strength to handle it up there, so. You know.
Yeah, and I just don't know who the candidate would be to get up there. I'm sorry, looking around this room, I don't want to see any of you guys dancing around with that. I mean, I'll just be perfectly honest.
Yeah, Levi takes a class, but nobody cares. You know, I mean,
we'll be out on Monday, Tuesday. Just part of the deal. We don't want to miss too many days, but it's summertime. It's the off season. I think things are about as slow right now as they have been in terms of like even NIL chatter's died down a little bit, which is actually quite refreshing. We'll be out Monday, Tuesday, but all of it is simply to. For one, get our own rest before we get into the juggernaut and grind of what's coming in a couple of months from now, but also to make improvements, to improve the show. So hopefully you can be understanding of that and be without us for a couple of days, and we'll be back in the studio. I don't know how noticeable it'll be. It'll be noticeable to us, but just trying to improve things, that's all.
Yeah. Into the chat, talking about the 3-6 and some of the games they think. Garrett, I want your opinion on this since you are decked out in purple and gold today. But Show Memo says, I just know as a Tiger fan, we want Texas. We still have Arky and who knows the third, so Arkansas. So Arkansas, Texas for LSU, and I would think A&M would be the third. Who would you want to see as your 3 in that as an LSU fan?
I definitely want to
You're not on yet.
I definitely want to see Alabama.
Nope, still not on.
Still not on.
Garrett's still working out the kinks a little bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't get to get this mic time all that often. Oh, you have to plug in the microphone.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we
go, yeah.
So the 3, definitely want to see Bama. I would like to see Texas A&M and Florida. Those are the 3 I would like to see every year.
It seems to be, and people, outside the Southeast may not realize how much Florida and LSU straight up hate each other.
I cannot stand Florida.
Yeah.
I despise
It's
it.
easy. I mean, but
yeah,
I mean, they straight up hate each other. That shoe game a couple years ago cost Florida a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, it essentially cost Dan Mullen his job at Florida eventually.
That was probably one of the greatest things to happen to LSU all season long.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about that pod for LSU? I like that.
What did you say again? You said A&M, Florida.
A&M, Florida, and Alabama.
Yeah, that sounds right. I don't think they need to force LSU Texas. I mean, I know Texas would probably love that, but then again, I mean, they should have Oklahoma and Arkansas.
They get them every other year.
I mean, as far as a permanent opponent, I'm sure that Texas would love to have LSU as a permanent opponent, and for certain reasons. I'm sure they would love to become a bigger LSU rival than A&M is, and that kind of a deal. But I don't think you need to force that one. A&M's already kind of got that. I mean, they intentionally set those two teams up to become a rivalry pre-OU and Texas. So, yeah, I mean, there's certain teams that are going to have 4 or 5 good candidates, and there's going to be some that have, maybe 2. But I think that sounds like a good little plan for LSU as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm A&M, I'm saying, Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, or Texas, LSU, and Arkansas, maybe. But that's 4 candidates. Like, you can switch it. Yeah, so Texas, LSU, and Arkansas, to me, would be the best for A&M.
Who's Oklahoma playing? They're playing Texas. They're playing Arkansas because they're next to each other, I guess.
Yeah.
And they wear similar colors. I mean, is that the reason for the rival? I mean, I know there's some history there, but it's not like there's Oklahoma-Texas history or Arkansas-Texas history. I'm curious who Oklahoma fans out there would want to see outside of Texas because there's not, to me, just a natural – like, oh, that's perfect. Like, we just rattled off 3 for A&M. We can rattle off 3 for
Well, and there's going to wind up being some random ones like Oklahoma, South Carolina. I mean, it's not going to be that. But, there's going to be some because you can't make it all work.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, somebody's not going to have, the perfect setup necessarily because you can only do it so many different types of ways. So, yeah, I'm curious to see who Oklahoma's other 2 would potentially be. And that's why you can have this conversation. But if you do the one model, then you're like, who's your one opponent? Well, that just leaves so much on the table. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And I understand that, like Zach Barnett said, it's to boost the teams at the bottom of the standings and help get them bowl eligible, basically. Right? That's basically the reasoning. You're worried about what Kentucky and Vanderbilt and those schools will have to deal with. But I don't know, man. I think you need to be more worried about, and I understand why. I'm certainly not going to suddenly become elitist guy and I'll screw what the little teams think. But, I think it's more important to make sure you have the biggest, baddest battles possible versus the last place team feeling like they're a part of the club too. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, absolutely. Oklahoma, it could be Arkansas, Mizzou, and Texas for them. But does that really do anything for Oklahoma fans? I mean,
Oklahoma, Mizzou, I forget Missouri's even in the SEC half the time. I really do. It's not intentional or anything. I just don't think about them all that much, quite frankly. But yeah, Oklahoma, Missouri, that would, they had some good battles in the Big 12 back in the day. I don't know how exciting that is for Oklahoma fans versus the other options because there's 6 other options that are way sexier. But at least there's some history there. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And, look, if I'm a Florida fan, I want LSU, I want Tennessee, and I probably want Auburn. They're probably going to wind up getting South Carolina in that
Who wants Bama?
Yeah. I mean, Auburn and Bama is going to be a
LSU.
thing. Tennessee and Bama is going to be a thing, and LSU and Bama should probably be a thing.
Yeah.
That's just, to me, the best TV thing because Bama and Tennessee have that cross-conference or cross-divisional rivalry going back forever, and before they had divisions, that was a huge rivalry. So.
I do think it's great, though, that everybody's acknowledging that everything got a little stale. Because I do feel like it did. I do feel like, still no Georgia A&M matchup at this point, right? I mean, all these years they've been in, Johnny Manziel's in his 30s now, and they still haven't played each other, which is just ridiculous. So I'm glad that they're shaking it up. I think it's going to be really interesting to see, the first time this doesn't work out where somebody loses a playoff spot because they did it this way, the complaints that will come. But I think ultimately it'll be a lot more positive than negative. And college football's scheduling definitely need a little bit of a shakeup. It did feel like we were seeing pretty much the same things over and over and over again. So, I feel like the Big 12 with just the 10 teams actually became a lot more exciting because you didn't avoid anybody and you knew you had to face every single team on the schedule. Now, it's not possible to do that in all these other conferences because there's too many teams, but yeah, moving away from we have to play all of our divisional opponents, so that's why you won't see this team, a few hundred miles away for 7 years before you see them. I'm glad that's going to the wayside. I think that is ridiculous.
Yeah, and look, I think the Big Ten probably has the same kind of problem. We don't think about it as much, but they've got 14 teams, and
They just don't have nearly as many brands that matter to, I think, the general public. Because if the SEC, you can rattle off like 7 of them, and now you include OU and Texas in that. So Florida, Georgia, LSU, Bama, Auburn, Tennessee, Oklahoma. And then the Big Ten, it's Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. I guess we'll throw Michigan State in there. I guess we'll throw, who? You should throw Nebraska, but they aren't where they should be.
Iowa,
Wisconsin,
But then you've got Purdue, Northwestern, Rutgers, Maryland.
Right, that's what I mean.
There's not if the Big Ten does the same model, I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's stuck with the Rutgers, Northwestern, Purdue 3. That's Indiana. It's not a football school.
Illinois.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's just fine. There's just a lot of teams that are like, okay, fine, yeah, whatever. But, it's really been a 2-horse race and maybe a 4 or 5-horse race. Michigan State with Mel Tucker, and Wisconsin's been super steady. And James Franklin, Penn State, I don't know if they've tapped out or maximized their potential. It kind of feels like that. But, they're still one of the upper echelon brands. But, I think the schedule, like I said, shakeup is good. I'm curious the first time it goes awry and how that occurs, to where – it's not the perfect model moving forward because there's always going to be, nothing's ever going to be totally perfect. But I do think there's going to be a lot more good that comes from it than any negatives that come from it for sure.
Yeah.
And clearly a lot of people are talking about it. That's the thing. If this weren't happening, then I'm sure there would be some college football topic people would be discussing, NIL or something like that. But I think it's been kind of eye-opening to me to see how many people are into schedules. I've never been this into schedules or given it that much thought, but there's clearly a lot of people giving it a lot of thought, and that's great. It's obviously, change is not always necessarily good, but I think in this case it is, and I think if it's creating a lot of conversation that's mostly positive, then that's, good for college football.
Yeah. Razorback MZ23 says Hogs get Texas, OU, and Mizzou. Texas gets Hogs, OU, and A&M. I wonder, that Arkansas is interesting because Texas and Arkansas was a fantastic Southwest Conference rivalry, but that's been 30 years now. So
it's a lot of Southwest Conference fans that love talking about that, and unfortunately, Southwest Conference fans have aged pretty much at this point. To my point being that you got a lot of older fans now who are recalling the glory days of that conference. And dude, I'm pushing 40 and I don't have hardly any recollection of it whatsoever. So do you think somebody that's 23 is like, oh, the old Southwest Conference? No, they have no idea what they're like, Southwest what? The huh? The Big 12's changed 17 times since the Southwest Conference was in existence. So I think for the older fans, there's that heartwarming feeling of, days gone by and all that, and that some of that will be rekindled. But I think there will be a newness to some of these. There will be a newness to some of these old rivalries, so to speak, that will be cool and refreshing.
Yeah. If you want a good example of how younger people feel about the Southwest Conference, try to get somebody in their 20s to watch The Goonies. It's a great movie, especially for our generation, Craig and Garrett, it's a great movie. We all love it. It was a great movie when we were kids. We all loved The Goonies. But trying to tell, Jack and Levi, and I'm sure Emery likes The Goonies. He's cool. But trying to tell them about it, they're like, well, I don't know. I really care about, a bunch of kids finding treasure in Oregon. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So it's hard
That's how I feel about Avatar.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like Avatar for a different reason.
I just don't know what the hype's all about. Really quite. I guess it's technological hype, but outside of that, it's okay.
Well, it's a remake of Ferngully.
And Dances with Wolves, right?
Yeah. It's that intersection right there.
Yeah.
Plus, there's that tail thing is weird.
I don't know. I just never cared about it at all. And the announcement that the sequels are finally coming out, I see all this, pandemonium over it or excitement. I'm just do not care at all. It never registered with me. Never made a dent in my brain as far as oh wow, look at the special effects and all of that. But I don't know why I'm randomly slandering Avatar. But just some things that some people appreciate that others don't. It's a passing of time and just different generations. And so it's going to be cool for the older fans, like I said, to see Texas and Arkansas, even though they've played since then, a few times, but to see it on a year in, year out basis. And to not only see that, but also see A&M and also see Oklahoma now, I think that's going to be really cool. And we'll bring, some new chapters to these old stories and legends that grandpa, dad and whoever have been talking about for all these years. They'll finally get to see some of, what the Southwest Conference meant just in a different arena.
Yeah, and let's see. Brandon Reese says Sports Illustrated had Florida and OU as each other's permanent opponents. I kind of like that. That would be, plus it forces a permanent opponent across regions of the country in a wide spanning conference, which I like.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to do it. You can go the very easy route of what's comfortable and familiar, and OU, Arkansas, OU, Missouri, OU, Texas, that makes just very easy, simple sense. But yeah, if you want to, shake it up and spice things up and not worry so much about the Southwest Conference, nod, then yeah, I'd be all for. I'm up for whatever. Like, I have grown up an Oklahoma fan. If they ended up saying Florida, LSU, Bama, like that would suck for them as a team. Yeah. But man, it would be exciting at least initially. But I'm not locked into they got to play the teams that they already have a relationship with. Basically, the last time Florida and Oklahoma faced off, Urban Meyer's crew took it out on them. Aaron Hernandez and Tebow and Percy Harvin and Brandon Spikes and all those cats took it out on OU in the national championship game, and that's the last time they've met. So I think that would be a cool, unique, and fresh new. Like that's what I'm saying is, are they trying to go all let's dip into the history here and preserve that, or do we want to actually use this opportunity to create some new history? And with Oklahoma, Florida, yeah, I think you would do that. I'd be all on board. I'd be on board OU, Tennessee, or because when they played a few years ago, I think that series worked out. It worked out in Oklahoma's favor. They won both those games, but I mean, just the feel of it was pretty cool too. So yeah, I'd be all on board for OU, Florida.
One of those games was better than it should have been. I remember Tennessee played well, or at least for a little bit, and then OU beat.
Yeah, there was. It's been so long, but yeah, there was one that they needed a little heroic at the end. I believe. I don't remember if it was Baker Mayfield. I think it was Baker Mayfield. A little magic or something towards the end, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been so long.
But yeah, there's a lot, but it is there's a lot of great tradition, but then you're stuck with okay, well, who's Vandy's three? They're going to be somebody
and who cares? You know what I mean? That's probably the least interesting topic of the entire thing is who's Vandy playing. I mean, no disrespect.
But I'm just talking about in the actual academics of trying to get it done.
No, I know that you have to. I'm not trying to be big school snob because I'm definitely not that. But if that's the kink in the whole thing is what's Vandy worried about, then that's not my biggest concern. But yeah, you do have to treat everybody equally, and that does throw a wrench in there a little bit that there's not an Tennessee, obviously, but that takes up a spot for Tennessee. So then who are there to, I wonder. But, yeah, I mean, it makes for a very interesting conversation, that's for sure. And, yeah, Oklahoma rally 2 OT win, Baker Mayfield to Sterling Shepard back in 2015. That's what that was in Knoxville. That's the game I was thinking of that they came back, or that they had the big thriller at the end there.
Yeah. From the 304, I would love to see a 12-team playoff in college football and home playoff games. Your thoughts? Look, I'm all for the 12-team playoff. I would be for anything up to 16. I think after 16, you're probably 16 even convolutes it a little bit more. But I would embrace a 16-team playoff. Anything other than that. But I think you're going to have to do home playoff games in the first round.
I'm not on board with 16. I think that's starting to get into too much territory. And, do we want to see 5 SEC schools in the field of 16?
Yeah.
Because that's probably what it would turn into. Me personally, no, I don't want to see that. We're already going to get 4 of the 8 probably, or, 3 of the 8. I don't necessarily want to see 5 of the 16. And I don't think that, in most years, your 5th place SEC team, and not just trying to pick on them either. I'm really not, but they're just who we all center around, basically. I don't know that they deserve a shot at the national title. The 5th place SEC team that we're to get, or even the 4th place SEC team that would get. I think you're looking at your top 2 or 3 teams in any given conference, and some may not even have 2 or 3. But outside of that, I think that's a little bit too much. But yeah, I'm cool with the 12. I think it's a nice compromise. Now, as far as the playoff sites, I think you have to do the home initially because what are they expecting as far as people's travel? I mean, that's been the big hang-up with the playoff is, if you suddenly turn the bowl games into, quarterfinal rounds or whatever, so the Boca Raton Bowl is suddenly, your first-round game. Well, if you're an Alabama fan having to, just throwing something out there. But if you did where it was, all these bowl games suddenly, well, I don't know that all these bowl games are going to be excited sharing the same team 3 weeks in a row or, 3 weeks over the course of 5 weeks or whatever it is. So, in theory, Alabama would play in the Boca Raton in the first round and then play in the Sun in the second round, and then they'll play in the Fiesta in the semis, and then they play in the road. Like, how would that even work? So I don't think that would fly. And just to travel, like, there's few and far between fans, even the biggest boosters, that could jump after a full regular season of travel and then go, to LA for a first round game, and then to Miami for the second round game, and then you got to go to Arlington for the third round game. I mean, people, especially right now, like, I don't know how many people are going to be able to do that. So, yeah, I think you have the home games. There should be a benefit to finishing higher. You earn a home playoff game, and that's an incentive. And then, then you spread it out and you move it to maybe more of a neutral site in that second round, and then you have your bowl incorporation those last couple rounds, or I guess however you do that. But, yeah, first round, I think just for the sake of people's wallets, you got to make it a home game for at least one fan base.
Well, and you can't, like, the cool thing about the NCAA basketball tournament and why it works for them, so many places where you can travel 3 weeks in a row and do that is, well, one, each week it gets less and less of the fan base, which would be the same way. But, you can, because the NCAA tournament is in a city, count on selling out like a third of the tickets from just basketball fans who just want to come and sit and watch it because it's there in their town, which I don't think you can necessarily do with.
No, there's multiple games too. Exactly. You're not just buying for Baylor, Oral Roberts. You're also getting Cincinnati and Akron, and you're getting Texas and Wisconsin, and you're getting, Pitt and Syracuse. So, yeah, I mean, that's.
Yeah. So it's not, you're not going to get that if it's, LSU versus Michigan and playing in El Paso. Like,
No. Yeah, none of that would make sense. And then it wouldn't make sense for the teams that, want to go to El Paso and play in the Sun Bowl because it's a big deal for their program to get to a bowl game and be, in a bowl game. But, yeah, so the point being, like, the whole bowls that hosting throughout or neutral sites throughout, I think that would be pretty problematic ultimately. You'd certainly have your diehards that would make it work, but I think for the fans' sake that, it makes sense. Like, you should have an incentive if you are one of the, let's say the top 4 teams or whatever. I think it just makes sense that you would have some home field territory. And why would you not want to bring it to some college stadiums? Like, it's college football. It's not the NFL. We don't need everything in Las Vegas. I understand why we take everything to Las Vegas or to Los Angeles or to Arlington and the same places over and over. They can all still be a part of it, but I just don't think it needs to be the whole playoff. I mean, it's college football. So, yeah, let me see a first-round game, Alabama hosting Wisconsin in Tuscaloosa, Yeah. And, hey, Alabama would have home field advantage. Well, they're number 1 or number 2 seed. They deserve home field advantage, Like, that makes simple sense to me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Plus, it will cut down on costs a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
We're kind of living in an inflation period right now. I don't know if everybody's noticed. And just in general, you've got the money going towards NIL now. I mean, that's eating into boosters' pocketbooks. And I know some of them will never even feel it. But that's the minority. And even then, people with a lot of money still, there's a point eventually for many is like, so I contributed $1 million to this NIL fund, and I'm also got season tickets for the whole family, and I've also got travel. Like, there's some people that can make that swing, but the average person, as diehard as they are, I mean, it's probably going broke trying to travel around and follow every single playoff site and do all of that. Yeah.
And look, not every school is as big as Ohio State too. So, like, if you're Baylor, but I mean, like, just a size of school like that, and you've got potentially 3 games. Well, hopefully one of them's a home game, and then maybe the next one you're going to have less people have to travel to, but you're going to have maybe less people than you would if it's a championship game because people are holding out hope that that's the one they're going to spend their money on.
And that always brings me back to Baylor as a small school and why I was told by a former college football player who knew some people that were a part of the committee that Baylor would never make it because they're too small and they wouldn't be able to bring the crowds for multiple games. He was told that by somebody that's apparently in the know. This was years ago at this point. And so we were having a conversation about, it's Baylor and their playoff chances and all that. And he's like, I'm just telling you right now, like, if there's any decision, like, they're not going to invite Baylor because it's too small of a school. And what are they after? They're after money, and they're after packing the stadiums. And I understand that concern on their part, but it's also kind of a BS reason for a team that's deserving to be in a playoff potentially to not get it because their fan base is too small. But then again, we are talking about a sport that basically tilts everything towards the big boys. And so, this an expanded field is pretty much their only chance other than going undefeated. Yeah. And I don't know how it would work as far as if they played at Santa Clara in the semifinals and then played in New Orleans in the national championship game. I think Baylor fans would make that work. But, that does have to come into consideration.
But I mean, and Baylor's not the only school that would have the problem,
No.
But they are kind of unique in that, not unique, but they're not. I'm just using that as an example.
Not everybody's Michigan and Ohio State with 100,000 plus, 20, alums in their 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they don't even probably have 100,000 total. I mean, maybe they do, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculously different size when we're talking about these schools.
Yeah, watch some of the commercials like the big schools like Ohio State, where they'll be like 9 million. I know it's not that, but it sounds like that. Like this many hundreds of thousands or a million alumni worldwide. You're like, well, dang, nobody. I mean, Ohio State could play a game, in Kinshasa, and they'd probably have enough people show up to make it worth their while. So, they're huge. Not everybody's like that. So. Anyway, all right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, joins us. Of course, yesterday was the tragic passing of Marion Barber, and we'll talk about OTAs as well. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, we're bringing great savings during the Memorial Day sales event on the award-winning, year-after-year new 2022 Ram 1500. Get up to $7,000 in total values or $2,500 bonus cash and 0% for 60 months. These great deals are for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the huge new car and truck inventory today.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel at the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Brad Boozer, Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her, and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
All right. Still waiting on Mickey Spagnola. He did tell me he would be at home, but he was dealing with something, so he'll call in just a second. But Craig, and we've talked about this, and we'll ask Mickey because he has been there a long time and covered a lot of Cowboys, and one of them was Marion Barber. But tragic death yesterday, just a little more than a week away from his 39th birthday. Marion Barber, who'd been struggling a lot, and he was always kind of a different guy. He was very shy, but had been struggling a lot in recent years, had a couple of criminal charges for some things, like he dented a car while he was running, and some kind of bizarre incidents, and it's really just a sad thing for Marion Barber.
Yeah, I think anybody losing their life is a sad deal, and especially if they're not of old age, it's a tragedy. And, the NFL really has been rocked pretty good here as of late with tragedies, whether it's Henry Ruggs causing one or if it was Dwayne Haskins' situation, or now you have Marion Barber. Not only to mention, you got links to Carl Joseph and, somebody losing their life, which to what extent he had any involvement, we don't know, and it doesn't appear as though he's going to be charged with anything. But, yeah, too much death going around. Yeah. That's for damn sure. And the guys that I'm talking about none of them are under 40 or over 40 years old, or even approaching 40, really. So I guess Marion Barber that's how long he's been out of the league now at this point. I guess when you really stop and think about it, it has been a while since he was, lighting up Cowboys fans. But, he was a fun player to watch. He was a guy that I think became a pretty quick fan favorite just because of his running style. Now, that obviously, did him no favors ultimately as far as the longevity of his career goes, and to what extent it played into his personal issues. I don't know, but I'm sure we'll hear they cut his brain open and CTE, and I'm sure we'll hear that in a few months, whatever that turns up. But no, he was a guy I'd seen, over the years, when something popped with a legal issue, see his name mentioned, and inevitably see, a comment or two on just the fact that he was not apparently doing all that well personally. In what ways, I don't know. Obviously, though, just the mental side of things, for whatever reasons, we're not all aligned and not in good shape. And obviously, there's some more details that come out to get a bigger, clearer picture of what exactly unfolded. But just a sad story to have to talk about. And I think he probably didn't realize just how beloved he really was, even though his time was short, really, when you think about it with the Cowboys. I mean, it wasn't like he was Emmitt Smith by any means, but in that short time he had, he made an impact.
Yeah. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, joins us now. And Mickey, before we get to OTAs, we got to talk about Marion Barber. You knew him and covered him. He was different. He was very shy, painfully so, but beloved by Cowboys fans. And the 2007 season will be always memorable. That I've been seeing that highlight of the 2-yard run. What are your memories of Marion Barber?
Yeah, just the fact that he just worked so hard, competed so hard. He was if I remember correctly, like a 4th round pick, and made it in this league and made a name for himself. The career probably lasted far too short. I think that the one season he tore I want to say it was a quad muscle, and he played through it, but I don't think he was ever the same after he came back from that. But they used him, red zone, goal line. He was sort of the guy. I remember the one year when he shared time with Julius Jones. It's like poor Julius Jones would run up and down the field, and as soon as they got inside the 20, here comes Marion Barber, and he would score the touchdowns. And Julius Jones was like, what about me, But it was kind of a shared existence, and it was working. And, Bill Parcells was kind of in charge of how they kind of used him there at the end of his coaching part of his career. And, if anybody needs to know more about Marion Barber, Skip Peete, the Cowboys running backs coach, was his running backs coach for several years. And he spoke so highly of him, not only as a productive player, but a person in the locker room, and a guy that he pointed out would come over and babysit his kids. I thought he was just a top-notch person. So yeah, at DallasCowboys.com, you can see what Skip Peete had to say about him. So it's been a tough, 4 months for the Cowboys with the different people passing away from him to Larry Lacewell, to Gary Brown, to Marilyn Love, to Rayfield Wright. It's been a tough few months for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Mickey, I think and Larry Lacewell happened after we had you on, and just mentioning him. I mean, that was a guy who was one of the great football storytellers in the world too. That I was lucky enough to get to meet a few times and spend some time with him. You knew him well. You brought that up, and it has. I didn't even think about the last few months like that.
Yeah, and the sad thing with Larry is you're right. He could tell you a story and he'd have you in stitches, or you'd be saying, you did what with who? I mean, his first coaching job was Bear Bryant, right? With Bear Bryant at Alabama. And then you find out that Bear Bryant went to high school with his dad in Fordyce, Arkansas. And there were things I didn't know, like they named a high school stadium Bear Bryant Stadium, but now you got to go down Larry Lacewell Lane to get to the stadium. That's what they thought of him in the state of Arkansas. So that was a tough one. And the sad thing about a guy that was so good at telling stories, after he had his stroke in 2016, the last time I saw him was 2017, and he hadn't regained his speech. The stroke really had a strong effect on him physically, and I'm not sure he ever got back to talking the way he normally would talk, and it certainly silenced him, but I don't think it silenced what everybody thought of Larry Lacewell.
Mickey, I know that you weren't able to be at OTAs today, but I guess kind of the interesting thing is, the Cowboys are having to figure out, maybe what some of these other wide receivers have, because the guys are injured. Simi Fehoko and Noah Brown up there, but that's not really a long-term thing. But what is the benefit, really for the Cowboys to see those guys and see if they can maybe hang a little bit?
Yeah, I think they'll at least Jalen Tolbert was out on the field doing individual work. He didn't do any teamwork, but they'll get a better look at him next week. And then also when they get into the mini camp, James Washington, I don't know if he'll get back in time for the mini camp or not, but he's a veteran player. They're getting to take a look at some of these younger wide receivers, and just kind of an example of what you're talking about. So with Noah Brown nursing something today, James Washington not practicing, obviously Michael Gallup's still going to be out, and then Tolbert just doing individual drills. TJ Vasher, the wide receiver from Texas Tech, was able to work with the first team. And if all those guys are there, he never gets that opportunity. And with young guys like that, or they're trying to make the end of the roster, every opportunity is so important. So that's a good example of what you're talking about. Simi Fehoko's going to get more reps, and they're going to get reps with Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush. They're not going to get them all with Ben DiNucci or Will Greer. and that makes a difference on what you can show the team in what you're capable of doing.
Mickey, it seems like anytime Micah Parsons talks, there's always, some notes that stem from that. He's a likable guy and obviously a great quote as well. But how much do you feel like he's helped amp up that inner team competition, just seeing kind of the back and forth with him and DeMarcus Lawrence?
I think, DeMarcus Lawrence is pretty comfortable in his own skin. Mm-hmm. And again, it's two different positions, right? It's a linebacker that can rush the quarterback, and DeMarcus Lawrence is a defensive end that does a pretty good job of rushing the quarterback and playing the run. So two different players, but yeah, they'll create competition, but it's not competition between each other.
Right.
It's competition to play hard that's going to pull other guys in and say, oh, okay, this is how hard I got to play if I want to grab me some snaps. And, Parsons has just got an infectious personality. He's going to be that Pied Piper in the locker room. And the good thing about this now is, and I think everybody forgets this, but DeMarcus Lawrence missed half the season last year. I keep seeing where people say, well, he did this with his contract and he only had 3 sacks or 3.5 sacks, whatever it was. Well, he missed 8 or 9 games when he fractured his 5th metatarsal, and he's coming back from off-season surgery. So to get him back, and he pointed it out, this is probably the first time in 5 years that he's in an off season with a normal off season, because the last 2 weren't normal for sure, and that he's not either recovering from an injury or rehabbing from a surgery. So that'll put him a little further ahead than he has been over these last several years.
Mickey, who do you think will be this year, or is the best candidate in your mind to be this year's Terrence Steele, a guy who pressed into duty maybe a little bit before he was ready, but really put in the work and became now Terrence Steele's a key cog in the machine?
So kind of a rookie free agent type guy. Keep an eye out for Marquise Bell, safety. He undrafted. Came out of Florida A&M, and I mean, from what I've seen, from what we get to see, he's been working second team safety, and we're talking a guy that's like 6'2", 212, and he runs a 4.41 40. He caught my eye, and I think he's caught their eye too. And this guy, he was a state champion or, state finalist in the high jump in high school. And he's just a great athlete, played every sport. And how about this? He also says he kicked in high school, said he made a 45-yard field goal straight on, by the way. So, keep an eye on that guy. And the other guy I sort of caught my eye was T.J. Vasher that I mentioned from Texas Tech. He spent the whole year last year on the practice squad after he recovered from the meniscus repair surgery that he had. And so, guys like that, they got a chance. Now, I don't know that they're going to turn in, in their third year, they're going to be a starter. But, just to get to play or make the team, as an undrafted free agent rookie is a giant step these days.
Mickey, Jonathan Garibay, the only kicker right now. Do you expect the Cowboys to do something, at least just to push him?
Yes, I do. And not only push him, I create some competition, which would create some pressure, right? I mean, it's one thing to go out there and practice and kick, and you're basically kicking against yourself, which kickers will say that's what we do. But I still think it's another thing when you got another guy there threatening your spot. And so, I think so. But again, you're going to have to find somebody that's available, right? I just saw that, what's the guy's name? Aldrich Rojas was kicking. He's kicked for like 5 different teams in the last 5 years, but 3 years, first 3 years in the league with the Giants. He was even a Pro Bowler as his second year. He got released. So there'll be a guy out there that you know, because you can't go to camp with just one kicker. You'll wear his leg out. So they'll bring in another guy or two, and as we go along, some other guys will get released, right? Some guys, you know, some teams will say, "Hey, this young kicker we have, we're okay with him, so let's let the veteran go." And now that it's June 2nd, you can release the guy now, and only part of, if he's got a signing bonus, part of it counts this year, and the rest counts next year. So I think you'll see a few more veterans maybe in the coming days get released and or get signed, because guys are going to look at the calendar, right, and they're going, June 2nd, I don't have a job. I better drop my asking price and get myself into a team if I want to make any money this year.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mix, thanks a lot. Have a good weekend.
Good to be with you guys. See ya.
All right, talk to Mickey again next week at this time. Next up, Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. The Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on Sikkim 365 Radio. Taking a look at some stories all around the sports world, but normally not in line with our normal topics of discussion. So unless there's like a randomly cool NIL story, I'm probably not going to talk about it here. But a lot of the other stuff, NBA, NHL, we'll get into all that in this segment. But there is a lot going on today, and there was also a lot going on last night. Did you watch the match, Paul?
I did not. No.
You did not. Did anybody in this room watch the match last night?
I knew what happened, but
you did, Garrett?
No. I didn't.
So nobody in this room basically watched the match, but there did seem it's like Twitter. It's why some people call Twitter a fun house. Is if you were on Twitter, you would have thought that all of America was watching the match.
Yeah.
There's 7 people in this room or 6 people in this room, and nobody watched the match. So it can kind of just show you how real life and social media sometimes are not one and one. But it was a win for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers as they defeated Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And Capital won the match on Wednesday night. They played a 12-hole exhibition at the Wynn Las Vegas. They had a big to-do about all of it. And, in the end, it was the veterans, Brady and Rodgers, getting the win over Mahomes and Allen. And I think it'll be interesting to see how much these continue to blossom, these types of events. It seems like there's spin-offs now. And, it's kind of like we see with, the Manning cast became popular. So now there's like the version of everything else. I wonder how much, the match, now that it's had a few different iterations, will continue to be a thing in the sports world. I haven't seen any ratings, but the trash talk was glorious. Those parts that I did see of that, the golf was hit or miss, I think. But ultimately, it came down to, I believe it was Aaron Rodgers making a shot there at the end to give the veteran team the win. And, everybody seemed to have good time, have fun. And I don't know, just curious your thoughts on just the whole setup.
Yeah, I like it. I just, I have a girlfriend now, and, getting her, she's a sports fan, but getting her to watch a golf match between 4 quarterbacks, I think might be pushing it.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
Yeah, she might go in for it, but especially when there was a hockey game on last night that wasn't any good, and the NBA, all that stuff that's starting up, it'd kind of be hard to push.
Yeah, well, and not everybody's a golf fan, I understand, but if you are an NFL fan and a golf fan, it's the perfect event for you, and it was Aaron Rodgers there on the final hole, draining the putt, so he gives the vets, like I said, him and Tom Brady the win over Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. I'm interested to see kind of what the audience ended up being for that, but it was successful. You had Barkley involved, Shaquille O'Neal. It's cool to kind of see the crossover that we're seeing in sports with events like this. So that was fun for those that got to check that out. A couple of retirements in the NFL. Frank Gore finally calling it quits. He did not play last year, so this was almost inevitable at this point, not being on a team after not playing at all last year. He's 30. He was 38, I believe, almost 39 years old now at this point. Last played as a 37-year-old in 2020, and he's calling it quits. Signed a one-day contract with the 49ers, and will retire as a member of the San Francisco organization. And a lot of people I saw pointing out that his son's like right on his heels of becoming, joining him and whatnot. But I saw a picture earlier today of Frank Gore early in his career with his son, and then now, flash forward all these years later. And it's kind of crazy how time flies, but it's even crazier to see how long Frank Gore was in the freaking NFL. The dude was in the league for the longest time, but now finally calling it quits. 3rd all-time leading rusher behind Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton. His rookie year, 2005. And here we are in 2022.
And he was on what I believe to be the greatest college football team ever in the 2001 Miami team. The guy, I know he's a Miami Hurricane, but I always love Frank Gore. You got to respect a guy that, he just ran violently, like he was mad at the grass. Just absolutely a beast. And I think he's kind of into boxing now,
I think he was involved in one of those sideshow. I don't mean sideshow disrespectfully, but some of these boxing events, there's like official boxing events, and then there's kind of like the carnival side of boxing. Yeah, I think he was involved in one of those types of deals.
Yeah.
Whether Thriller or Triller or whatever that kind of a deal is,
Yeah, so I think he's kind of into that. And, of course, the guy's in great shape. He's been I mean, for a guy who ran like he did, to play as long as he did is for kind of amazing. He and Adrian Peterson both, have that kind of longevity in the league and being big, bruising guys who run over you, it's impressive. They're a rarity. Frank Gore's a Hall of Famer. 5 years from now, I think that, you can't keep out the all-time leading rusher, even though kind of the back end of that is just, kind of playing continually. But look, I think longevity has to go into a Hall of Fame consideration, that he held up in a position where most guys don't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he was able to get those. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are going to come in and be the rushing leader after 8 seasons. It'd be impossible. So, yeah, I mean, to even scratch that surface of being the all-time king, you got to play for a while. And he did, and he got all the way up to number 3, ends up with 16,000 yards. Played with 5 teams over his career, but behind Walter Payton by just 726 yards. And then, of course, there's Emmitt Smith right there at the top with 18,355. So he would need another 2,355 yards to match Emmitt Smith. It's hard to see where that record is going to be broken. The closest to it was Frank Gore. And then there's Adrian Peterson, who's still technically, I guess, active-ish. He's been on 7 teams now at this point. Had years where he didn't even play barely, and he's still, nearly 4,000 yards away. So Emmitt's record is very safe. And to look at the most active player now that would even be in consideration. So Frank Gore retires. He's out of the way. Adrian Peterson's not gonna break it. Mark Ingram, and he's not going to break it. He's 54th all time, but he's the highest active, next up on that list, 7,878 yards. So he is 11,000 yards away from Emmitt Smith's prestigious record. Zeke Elliott, 58th all-time leading rusher, 7,386 yards. But again, that's 11,000 yards away from that top spot. So I don't know if we'll ever see that record broken.
Because the game has changed a lot, like baseball and pitchers. Like, it's going to be a long time before we see another 300-game winner.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be a long time before, somebody steals the bases that Ricky Henderson stole. I mean, that those records will stand for a long time. Innings pitched, things
Nolan's
like that.
7 no-nos.
7 no, yeah. I mean, all those things, because 7 no-hitters means that you had to pitch 7 complete games.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys who are great who are going to the Hall of Fame who don't have 7 complete games in their whole career.
They'll go 7 innings.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just different now. The sport's different now. People are, bell cow backs are not, that important anymore, and teams can get by without them. Heck, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl without one. So, the Bucs won the Super Bowl. I mean, they had Leonard Fournette, but they, was he a bell cow? He was just kind of hot at the time. He's a good player, but, you look back at the Super Bowl winners, and it's not anymore who had the best running back, which it used to be. I mean, the Cowboys won the Super Bowl 3 times, due in large part because they had the best, one of the 2 best running backs in the league, and the other one was Barry Sanders, and he was on the Lions. So, he just drew the short straw there.
Would have been interesting to see how Barry's career would have played out. That's a what if that we'll never know for sure. But so at 39 years old, Frank Gore now retiring, 3rd all-time leading rusher, and his son set to be a junior at Southern Miss. And it was cool that when he did, even though he didn't play last year, Frank Gore Sr., when he last played back in 2020, he actually scored a touchdown the same weekend as his son at Southern Miss. So that's pretty cool, but not lasting long enough to be able to meet and be on the same team and do the whole LeBron and Bronny thing that they're trying to set up. Lasting just long enough for father-son. There were some thoughts that the Gores might be able to do that, but not going to happen now. But what tremendous career, great player. Like you said, part of the greatest college football team of all time, arguably, and definitely one of the best. But the other retirement announced today in the NFL, Ryan Fitzpatrick. The reports are out that he is looking to retire. 17 seasons in the league for Ryan Fitzpatrick. 17 seasons.
I would put him on TV so fast.
Well, that's where he's headed.
Yeah, he is hilarious. He's got a great personality. He'll do wonderfully on television. I'm predicting a number 1 broadcast spot for him within 5 years.
Yeah, no, there's already a lot of scuttlebutt that's where he's going to be headed, and especially see the money being tossed around by the likes of Amazon now and He'll certainly see a fat payday as a result of that, but he apparently sent out a text message to his teammates letting them know that he was planning on retiring, and then one of those teammates, Fred Jackson, or former Bills teammate of his, I guess is the one that broke it publicly. So, yeah, he's calling it quits after 17 seasons, and you will definitely be seeing him in the broadcast booth, but not bad for a 7th-round pick, huh?
No.
17 years in the NFL. That's incredibly impressive, and as you said, he's a likable guy. Elsewhere, Arkansas has signed head coach Sam Pittman, contract extension through 2026. I think I'd kind of referred to this being in the works a couple of days ago, but it's now official. Sam Pittman extended in Fayetteville. No surprise there.
Great idea. He's done a wonderful job in a short time.
Doing okay. So, yeah, that's a good move for Arky. When's the last time you played Madden?
It's been a while. I think when I turned about 36 or 37, I had to kind of change my video game.
It's another girlfriend thing, or
yeah, I mean, it's just like it's hard also to like, you have your job and life and everything. And,
yeah, sure. You don't have a lot of time for video games, even though some have made video games life.
Exactly.
Full job and all of that stuff, thanks to Twitch and YouTube and all that kind of jazz.
But yeah, I'm just warning the three guys here who were, when I came in talking ad nauseum about a video game, you got a good 7-8 years left, and then it's over. As much as you want to, because there's times where, like, man, I would love to have, like, 4 hours to just sit and play Batman Arkham Knight right now, but I don't.
Yeah. So, I mean, the guys, the way you can change that, just, I guess, stay single. I guess if you love video games that much, that's what you should do. But they did unveil the cover for the latest edition, Madden 23, yesterday, June 1st. And June 1st is known as Madden Day. And no surprise, with his passing, John Madden will be on the cover of Madden NFL 23. The first time on the cover in 23 years. So just made sense. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could go, a lot of players you could probably put on there, but having Madden on the All Madden edition that just makes sense because of the timing of everything.
Yeah. I haven't played in a while. I know that there were some poor reviews the last couple of years about the engine. Yeah. It's not the best. They've maybe leaned too much into the realism. Am I right, Jack? And not enough into the fact that it's a video game. Like, why is Madden bad now?
They stopped trying to make it better.
Oh,
stop trying to make it better. Well, okay. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. I have not played some of the newer versions all that much, so I wouldn't know. I haven't played enough to know the major differences and why 23 or 22 is better or worse than 19. And like some people can rip off like every cover guy in order and every difference in every game, but they all just kind of mesh together to me because I'm not as into it, I suppose. But yeah, Madden gracing the cover of Madden NFL 23, so that's a pretty cool deal, and obviously a big story this year was the passing of John Madden. Tonight in the NBA, you got the finals, Game 1, Celtics at the Warriors at 8 p.m., so that now getting underway. And will be very interesting to see how this goes down. I'm pretty heavily leaning in the Warriors' corner, but I'm no expert by any means. We do know that there's going to be a couple people missing tonight's game that have nothing to do with the players, but Jeff Van Gundy and Adrian Wojnarowski both going to miss Game 1 finals coverage after testing positive for COVID. So as much as we haven't really heard that storyline in sports, it feels like all that much over the last year or so, it is still popping up on occasion, and it's going to leave Woj and Van Gundy off the broadcast tonight.
Yeah, it's I think probably for the until there's some sort of different change in it for the next probably 4 or 5 years. We're gonna have people that are gonna miss stuff because of COVID.
Yeah. So Mark Jones, Mark Jackson will call Game 1, but that is coming up later on tonight. Finals, Boston at Golden State. And that'll be on ABC. Elsewhere in the NHL, you have Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals as the Edmonton Oilers down 1-0, looking to avoid an 0-2 pit on the road at Colorado. Avalanche obviously lead that series 1-0. That game will be on TNT at 7 p.m.
Avalanche are really good, and the Rangers got kind of a rusty Lightning last night, and I think beat them was like 6-2 or something like that. It was not great, but I think we're probably going to see the Lightning and the Avalanche if I had to make the prediction right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know, but that seems like the fairest bet. You're a hockey guy, Garrett. Yeah, get that microphone. Lightning Avalanche. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, coming in, I had the Avalanche playing Carolina. Obviously, Carolina took it out, but right now I think you've got to go with Tampa Bay and Tampa Bay and them.
They haven't lost a playoff. They've won 10 straight playoff series. The Lightning have.
Right.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Of course, they've won the last 2 Stanley Cups. So.
Yep. Well, that'll be coming up tonight. So you got a couple of events to look forward to, whether it's the NBA Finals or it's the Western Conference Finals in the NHL. And you know what? I saw some Big 12 odds that were released. Texas. This was from CBS Sports. Some of the odds released by Caesars Sportsbook has Texas as the favorites to win the Big 12. Now, I know some of this is like, we need to get people to bet money, so let's put, there's some of that to it, but there's also, Vegas knows their stuff. They know their stuff to a scary level, actually, at times. But Texas, plus 175, Oklahoma, plus 200, Oklahoma State, plus 400, Baylor, plus 600, fourth best odds, according to Caesars. And then Iowa State, big jump, goes from plus 600 Baylor to plus 2,500 for Iowa State, plus 2,500 for K-State, TCU, Dub V, Texas Tech plus 6,000, and then Kansas plus 30,000 odds. They drag up the rear, according to Caesars. So there's just a kind of a glimpse at how Vegas is viewing the Big 12, and those are a few things off the radar.
But I bet every penny that Levi has on Kansas.
I would be interested to know if there's any diehard Baylor fan who bet big on them on like a trip to Vegas as far as winning like the Big 12 title or something last year, because they couldn't have had very good odds. And, coming off of the season that they had previously, I would imagine somebody who's just a fan said, oh, what the hell? Throw 100 on the Bears, and that would have worked out pretty well for you. I don't know. I don't think it would have made you a millionaire, but it certainly would have put a few thousand in your pocket. So, yeah, if you want to check out, if you're a betting person, then there are some Big 12 odds from Caesars.
Yeah, I know. Somebody I know went to Vegas and made like $5,000 betting on Baylor something, but I can't remember what it was. It was either football or men's basketball.
Dude, if I went out there, I'd throw down some just random bets. Like if I had, money to burn or money to save up just to throw it, like, hey, I'm going to use this on something superficial anyways. Might as well just put it up for grabs and see if, it can make some money. But yeah, if I was out in Vegas around this time of year and I saw my random college football team, I'd throw a little action down. Could have a Baylor type year where you go from 2 wins to 12 wins and, a couple of championships.
Yeah. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, Kendall Count, we'll talk Baylor basketball and kind of the Big 12. But now that the roster shakeups are all official, it's June 1st. What do you think about Baylor moving forward, the Big 12, and some of the other teams nationally? This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Cryer from the corner. And it rattles home. Wow. Gonna KO, baby.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now, here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Little football break. We'll talk basketball with Kendall Cowd and why basketball in June. Well, June 1st is an important day for transfer portal, NBA draft, and all of that. Everybody had to make their decisions by yesterday. Of course, some of the bigger ones, Jalen Wilson going back to Kansas, which, again, not that Kansas wasn't going to be salty, but now even saltier, and sets up a really interesting top two in the Big 12 with Kansas and Baylor. But Kendall Cowd, Sikkim365.com basketball analyst, joins us now. And Kendall, now that we'll start with Baylor, now that their roster is set, Matthew Myers off to Illinois, that Caleb Lohner, Jalen Bridges in his transfers. How do you see the top 8 to 9 kind of filling out for Baylor now?
Sure. So, Paul, always great to join you all. I think the top of the rotation seems pretty set, but maybe one guy could break in. So pretty clearly, Adam Flagler will be the starting point guard, a likely candidate for Big 12 Player of the Year. I would expect Keontae George, since he's a potential lottery pick and a very talented scorer, led McDonald's All-American game in points scored, to join L.J. Cryer in the backcourt. I think Bridges will start at the 4. He played a lot at West Virginia. Some of the advanced math liked him more. And obviously, Flo, having started on the national championship team in last year, will start as well. You figure that Dale Bonner will stay in the rotation. Langston Love just had that interview with Ashley Hodge on Athlete Plus on Sikkim 365. Caleb Lohner will be in the rotation as well. Then there is a spot, I think, for somebody to break through, whether it's Jordan Turner as he enters year 5 on campus, Zach Loveday as he's in his 3rd year as a Bear, or if Josh O can maybe come around a little bit quicker than Baylor expects, can he get through the rotation? And Dale Bonner will play quite a bit too. So 8 or 9 seem pretty solid right now, but a lot of guys that, Zach Loveday didn't come back thinking he wasn't going to play. So there are a lot of guys that are going to push for playing time next year.
What did you think of Matthew Myers' Illinois decision?
Craig, I was a little bit surprised by it. I haven't had contact with Matt since the season, but I talked to a few people who had spoken with Matt as he made the decision to transfer. I felt like North Carolina was the best mix of his decision to maybe maximize revenue, if you know what I'm saying there, Craig. I feel like that would have been the best way to maximize revenue and also be on the best team possible. Illinois still figures to be pretty good. They rank top 15 on Torvik's early season rankings to look at the analytics to try and determine who's the best. Brad Underwood said in an interview with the Field of 68 on their new newsletter that he expects to be a more forward-oriented offense. So maybe that gives Matt a chance to showcase himself a little bit more. Should be a pretty good team. And Matt had mentioned in an interview he did that he thought he would get a better chance maybe to dominate the Big Ten. So I think it makes sense. I'm glad he didn't go to Texas Tech. That would have been weird to see him in a different uniform playing Baylor. But kind of surprised he made that decision, but I hadn't talked to Matt directly since the end of the season.
With going back to Baylor's lineup, at the end of last year, once Jonathan Chama-Chachua was injured, down low was pretty much just Flo Thamba. They didn't have a lot of presence down there. They had to go small a lot. It worked out for them for the most part, but certainly, especially early on in the North Carolina game, that was really, really hurting them. Have they done enough in the offseason to address that issue and be better and bigger down low?
It's a fair question, Paul. I don't know that they necessarily have. I think their two options are, does Flo get a lot better? He was so much better from the Texas game on. Didn't look like the same Flo from the national championship season. So I think his natural improvement is probably the first thing Baylor hopes. And the second thing is, can Caleb Lohner, who had a injury he dealt with most of last season that maybe explains his subpar shooting at BYU, play a little bit of small ball five? That might be tough for Baylor, since I think they'll close a lot of games with a four-guard lineup like they did a lot during the championship season. So I don't know if they've addressed that directly, but Zach Loveday will push for playing time. Josh Ho gets off the floor very well for Baylor, too. So that's maybe the weakness I think you could pinpoint for him, Paul. And I don't know if they've addressed it well enough, but every team has a weakness. And I think when you enter the season, that appears to be Baylor's.
You mentioned a couple of guys in Loveday and Turner who have been on campus for a while now, and we know, like in today's college sports, just how things can flip in the blink of an eye. What is it with those two guys in particular? And I know they've had great players in front of them. That's part of the deal. But having to wait, how can they end that wait and really, in your opinion, carve out a niche for themselves on this roster?
Sure, Craig. Let's start with Jordan Turner, since he's been on the roster a little bit longer. He makes shots when he's in the games. I think for him, it's, does he put the ball on the floor well enough to create offense? The number one skill set for any wing or guard in modern basketball is the ability to create your own shot when the offense bogs down. I was talking to a Baylor assistant a while back, and he mentioned, by Big 12 play, everybody scouted you so well to death that you just have no ability to run your set plays anymore. And so I think for Jordan Turner, it's that desire that he, I know, has. Can that translate to the ability to put the ball on the floor and score some buckets? For Zach, I think it comes on the defensive end. Baylor likes to switch a lot of ball screens. Flo Thamba was able to do that a lot more effectively last season, where they'll ask their big men to handle a guard on the perimeter. Zach couldn't do that last season, picked up those two quick fouls at Texas Tech after it was thought that maybe he'd join the rotation. I think his offensive game, with his ability to be a stretch five, put the ball on the floor with some hook shots over both shoulders, is very advanced and would play for Baylor. But in the modern era where Baylor wants to switch, it's tough to ask him to play different defensive concepts. So if Zach Loveday can switch screens, he's going to play a lot of minutes. If Zach Loveday can't switch screens, I don't see playing time for him. So all summer, I think Zach Loveday is probably going to do agility drills, foot drills, and if he's doing that, he's playing. If he's not, unfortunately, he's probably not.
Kendall, the rest of the Big 12, dust settling with the transfer portal and the draft coming back. Kansas gets Kevin McCullough. They also get Jalen Wilson back, which should set them up pretty well to defend their title. But Texas gets Tyrese Hunter. What do you see happening at the rest of the top of the Big 12?
Sure. So I think KU is pretty clearly the number 2 team on paper. I think Baylor's the best team. I think Lagler, entering the season, should be the Big 12 preseason player of the year. Really good, dominant point guard. I think he'll transition well to playing point guard, and quite frankly, he played point guard a lot at the end of last season. When it comes to Kansas, I think they're the number 2 team on paper. They bring in Grady Dick, who is a McDonald's All-American. I'm sure people will make some jokes about the name, but he's a very good player. And Baylor really wanted Grady Dick for a while. I know they thought they were going to land him. But he had connections to KU with his family, played at Sunrise Christian, will be a really good player on the perimeter with them. The question for KU, I think, is without Remy Martin, and when he played at the end of the season, you're national champions, but he didn't play during part of the middle. They weren't as effective. If Dwan Harris has to handle most of the point guard duties, I know they expect Kevin McCullough to spell some of that, and that's part of why McCullough left Texas Tech. I worry a little bit about them and maybe their offense bogs down like it did 2 seasons ago with Marcus Garrett running the point guard duties for them. When I look at Texas, the still question, I think, Paul and Craig, is what we've asked for the last 3 years with Chris Beard teams. Who's going to shoot the ball? And who's going to shoot it effectively? Marcus Carr, good scorer. Timmy Allen, good scorer. A lot of good scorers on that team. But ultimately, you got to make perimeter shots. They went, I think, 3 of 22 in Austin as Baylor won the final game in the Drum. You bring in Tyrese Hunter, who wasn't a very good three-point shooter in Ames, and you wonder, yet again, can you shoot and make shots at a high level? I think TCU's gotten a lot of respect. Bring all 5 starters back. Mike Miles might win Big 12 preseason player of the year as a phenomenal talent. Everybody else likes to come back. I think that's the most likely team to get into that top 2 with Baylor and Kansas, but it's possible with them. But I really do think this is a very talented Big 12. But I think KU, and if they get their freshmen playing at an elite level, and Baylor are really the only 2 national title contenders, as long as we don't have a season like 2014 Connecticut, where you're just like, well, nothing mattered, a stupid team won. That doesn't happen too often. I think the 2 at the top, once again, are national title contenders. The rest are, hey, Sweet 16 is a nice into the season.
Kendall, it's been really weird to see the kind of inter-conference trade-offs that are going on. I mean, Paul outlined, Kevin McCullough going to Kansas, Tyrese Hunter coming to Texas, Jalen Bridges going to Baylor. Do you like that? Does it make it more? I mean, I think the transfer portal makes everything more interesting, but do you like seeing schools that play each other so regularly basically trading players?
I don't, Craig, and I know there's some desire that you have to be all the way for like player empowerment at the end, or you have to be all the way for the game's ruined and it's not what it was in 1987. And by God, 1987 was the best year of all time. Can't we go back to that? You don't have to be that, right? We can moderate our takes some and say it's nice the players are getting some money, but maybe NIL's gone a little too crazy if we're wondering are guys only leaving for money. You can say capitalism's good. We need that. That's fine. But I think some limits on the market are okay. And I think it would be whether it comes to NIL. And I think especially when you talk about transferring in conference, I'm glad I'm not going to have to, talk to Matt Meyer when he's in Lubbock. Right. Or watch Baylor fans boo Matt Meyer. But for Kevin McCullough to get booed out of his mind when he comes back to Lubbock, I think it's going to be sad. Tyrese Hunter, for all he did to get Iowa State to the Sweet 16, is going to get booed tremendously in Ames. I just don't really like that. I wish there were some way to say you can transfer anywhere else. It's not within conference. I don't know. Baylor benefits from Jalen Bridges. I'm sure I'll enjoy covering him, but something feels a little icky about it. Maybe it's just a natural tendency that if you're a little older, you pine for the days of years past. But I do feel a little icky about it, Craig, and I kind of like to see some constraint on it, or at least lessen what's happening so much.
What does Drew Timme coming back to Gonzaga do for them?
Paul, I think it once again tells us that Gonzaga is the number one team on paper. I do think Gonzaga is a legitimate number one team on paper, and it's one of those deals where, yeah, if you're, I just watched the Top Gun movie, phenomenal movie, unbelievable movie. So glad I saw it. I'm seeing now on TikTok all these women pining for Miles Teller, and I guess it's like Gonzaga's Miles Teller walking into a bar. You feel pretty good each time you walk to the bar, and eventually it's going to go your way. So eventually Gonzaga will break through. KU had a long road of being one seeds under Bill Self in 2007, high seeds with Wayne Simeon before they broke through for Bill Self. I think it's kind of like that with Gonzaga. Some years they're going to break through. Either you're as good as they were in 2021, and 2021 Baylor with Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler and Maceo Teague and Mark Vidal won't be waiting for you on that final day, or you won't have a rough shooting day like they did against Arkansas in the tournament this season. So I think they're definitely the best team in the country entering the season. But yet again, if you're the best team entering the season, you don't always win it. And if you're Gonzaga, I think you got to keep wondering about it. But good for Drew Timme coming back. I think that was the right decision for him to keep cashing checks. But you really start feeling a lot of pressure if you're Gonzaga if you don't do it this year.
And Baylor folks will get to see Gonzaga up close and personal, as we learned, I guess it was a couple days ago. You got plans to head on to South Dakota in December?
I was going to ask you fellas that as well. I live in Kansas City, so I'm like, I've never gone to South Dakota. I don't know if that's like 8 hours. I don't know if it's like 5 hours. I guess I might try and go, but, man, if you had told me at the national championship game when Drew Timme did the mustache dance thing when they were down like 16 points and he scored that 2 years later I'd be driving to South Dakota to cover him, I would have said, you know what, let's press the button again and run things back in a different way. But I might go up there, but are you all planning to go to South Dakota? I don't even know. Do you fly into like Omaha and drive forever, or how the heck do you even get to South Dakota?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm of the belief that there should only be one Dakota, but I don't know if I'm going to South Dakota. Like if I'm going to South Dakota, it's going to be in June, not in December.
Yeah,
like South Dakota in December sounds terrible to me. I'm very terrified of even the smallest bit of snow and ice.
Well, I don't know when else I'm going to go. So, I mean, I think for some people that might be the hey, let's might as well go. I don't know when else I'm going to go to South Dakota. But, yeah, I don't think we've really planned out yet. But it's an interesting thought because, again, it's such a unique, environment that they're going to be playing in. And to see a game like that just randomly in South Dakota is kind of interesting. But I did want to ask you one more question. I know that the Baylor's roster is loaded up and they've got a lot of experience returning. But I did see, as everybody's starting to arrive now, these newcomers, D'Antoine Grimes was somebody that I don't know how much he was really on people's radars before he committed to Baylor a while back. Obviously not expecting him to come in, Kendall, and be like a playmaker right away, but just what's kind of the thought process with the coaching staff surrounding D'Antoine Grimes and kind of how they're going to enter him into the mix?
I think, Craig, it's that they don't expect him to play a lot early, but as last year showed, you can have all the guards in the world, and then L.J. Cryer's foot goes bad, Adam Flagler's knee has a problem, James Akinjo's back is suddenly bad. And although you thought you had 5 guards ready to play, Langston Love tears his ACL, you find out you need more. So I think you can never have enough guards. He's been a very effective scorer at the junior college level. So I think the thought is if he's having to play in year one, it's the reflection that he maybe is the 3rd or 4th guard on Baylor's roster. And if you're playing next to Keontae George likely top 10 pick in the draft. Adam Flagler, probably a draft pick next season. Very good chance to be the Big 12 Player of the Year. Not a lot of pressure on you. Guys are helping off late. You can score. So I think it's just part of a reflection of you got to get a little bit more depth, kind of like Baylor football, add another quarterback recently. Never have too many guards, never have too many quarterbacks. So I think that's what they're trying to do with that addition.
Yeah, I mean, they very well get cleaned out next year, talent-wise. Not that they can't reload that, but you mentioned Keontae George, probably a lottery pick. Adam Flagler is going to be gone after next year. If LJ Cryer has a good year, who knows what happens there, right?
Yeah, going to be a lot of new guys, I think, after this, Paul. And so for all my talk about interconference transfers are bad, the 2023-2024 Bears, which that year alone makes me feel old, being like, oh, my God, 2024, get another election cycle we're going to have to deal with. Thinking about all that, by then Baylor could be like, yeah, we got 2 guys from Kansas, 2 guys from Tech, 2 guys from Texas. It's a weird world. 2024 going to be crazy. I don't know that I'm ready for it, but maybe South Dakota will age us all enough.
Kendall Count, SickOf365.com. Kendall, thanks for hopping on with us today.
Always a pleasure, Paul and Craig, and get Smokey my best.
All right, will too. Yeah, it was great stuff from Kendall Count. And Craig, on the chat room, let's see. Did you hear about John Ruiz at Miami's company and kind of the stuff that's going on there? Right.
No, I was just thinking about Miles Teller and Whiplash. As he brought up Miles Teller. I was going to say that's a pretty good movie.
Miles Teller's good, man.
Yeah,
he's good. Whiplash.
I think I'm going to go see Top Gun this weekend. I haven't had the time to go just yet, but everybody has pretty much seen it. I think I'm one of the only ones that hasn't seen it at this point. But yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that. And yeah, Miles Teller's pretty good. But no, as far as John Ruiz in Miami. What was it? You sent me something earlier.
So last week, his company, MSP Recovery, went public. Its share price has already dropped by 86%, and now a law firm is investigating whether MSP and certain of its officers and or directors have violated federal securities law.
Well, that's very interesting, and I just typed in his name to see if there's just any updates and to get a little bit more information. And I see that back in December there was a nice article about him, how ex-TV lawyer John Ruiz turned millions into billions. So has he now turned billions into millions? Is that what you're telling me?
It sounds like.
Do they need to write a new article?
Especially for people who were shareholders in his company, apparently. So.
Yeah, I hate seeing any sort of financial ickiness like that. I absolutely hate that. And, yeah, I mean, I need to read a little bit more up on that, but that's very interesting. And we know how heavily involved he is with the whole NIL at Miami, and how vocal he's been about so much of that. The dust up with, one of their basketball players over threatening to transfer just about a month ago, and he's clearly been very active on Twitter. I've seen him on occasion popping in, life wallet this and life wallet that and whatever else. But yeah, I'd be very curious to know kind of the repercussions that come from that. I mean, obviously for him, it looks like he could be facing jail time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
So, that's immediately what is probably his concern, but I do wonder what effect does that have on Miami's big NIL push that they've been making here with him being kind of the ringleader of it all. That's very interesting.
Yeah, the city of Miami is a weird place, man. It's politically, business-wise, there's a reason that there's like a whole genre of literature that could just be Miami crime.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's not just because it's theoretically happening. It's because it does happen. Miami is a lot like Louisiana or Chicago, where, stuff kind of different happens. Like, how did this guy all of a sudden he greased the right palms? It's a weird place. And, this kind of thing happens all the time, whether it's, winds up true or not. But,
he apparently, I'm looking, he responded to Stuart Mandel, who I guess had that tweet, on the company going public, its shares dropping by 86% in a week. I think his screenshot has their stock at $1.31.
Yeah.
But John Ruiz responded to him and said, Stuart, I think you are in athletics, not SEC investigations. This firm uses this as a marketing tool. I think you need to know what you're saying before you tweet, but you will see tomorrow. And then he posts some screenshots that are from like some law firm or whatever. So I don't know. He's responded as of a few hours ago, and is basically saying much ado about nothing, I suppose. But, yeah, we'll see if anything comes of it. That's interesting to just hear his name involved, though.
Yeah. By the way, Mike Games on the chat room on Miles Teller, phenomenal in Top Gun. And I can agree with you. He's you'll love it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this is the first movie I know that's come out in quite a while where there's not, two camps of like, this is great or this sucks. It's basically everybody thinks it's great that's seen it, and there's a couple of maybe, movie critics who are just, whatever, that don't feel it for whatever reason. So it's never going to be 100%, but damn, it sure seems like this movie's about as close to it as anything that's come out in a really long time.
Yeah, and I'll say this. We forgot that you can go to the movie theater because the last 2 years people haven't. But this movie is it's one of those things you need to see it in the theater. It's a cinematic experience.
Well, there was rumors about it going to streaming because of COVID and the pause and all of that, and Cruz has said, he's like, I was never going to go to streaming. He said, I make movies for theaters. And I'm glad there's somebody like that, because he hasn't sold out and, doing Top Gun Havana in 2 years for $20 million starring Ryan Reynolds or something, because that's basically what it's turned into. I'm glad he didn't, bastardize the franchise. He remained patient, and look what patience can get you. You know, it's got you a best opening weekend of your entire career. And it's certainly got a lot of great reviews. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And as far as this Ruiz thing goes, had I not seen that response to him, I would really be licking my chops over what could be coming down. But now that's kind of taking some of the heat off. But then again, I don't really – I definitely don't know John Ruiz, but I know I don't trust the guy just based on what I do know. So we'll see whatever his wait and see tomorrow is. But, that's an interesting story.
Yeah, Neilio, best movie I've seen in the last 10 years, and I'm a big moviegoer. I can't disagree with you. Like, as far as the overall cinematic experience, enjoyment of a movie,
the last one I went and saw was The Batman. I know that was very hit or miss for some people. I mean, I'm just a big Batman fan, so you could give me like 6 hours of just talking and I'd be cool with it. But I know for some people they want flash bang, pop, whatever. So it wasn't for everybody, but it was nice to be in a theater, and I'm very much looking forward to being back in one to watch Top Gun here pretty soon.
Yeah, some people want Beatles Batman. That was Nirvana Batman.
Yes.
I mean,
and I'm a Nirvana guy, so
exactly.
I loved it.
So it was great. But even then, and you and I went to see that movie together. We both agreed it was fantastic. But
the guy next to me hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it. He just the whole last hour on his phone grumbling. What was the word he kept saying? So redundant. It's so redundant. And that did not take away my enjoyment. I still enjoyed it. I've watched it already again on HBO Max and enjoyed it again. So, I'm going to probably go this weekend now that we got a little extra time on Monday and Tuesday being off because of the studio stuff. I may take a trip down to the movie theater.
Yep. All right, take a break right here. Come back, get in more of the chat, more of the texts as we wrap up this show. And then, of course, we're back tomorrow, then off for a couple days. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
The Memorial Day sales event is here at Allen Samuels in Waco. The new 2022 impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months and $3,000 in bonus cash. That's right, and $3,000 bonus cash. This great incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneer is for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the huge new car and truck inventory today.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. All right, a direct question for Craig. It's kind of a random one on the chat room from Mike Games. Hey, Craig, since you're an AEW fan, was the MJF promo last night a real or scripted or a little bit of both?
I was not expecting that question. Yeah. I did, I've been off and on. I always keep up, even if my viewing's not always regular, like I'm tuned into Raw but I do keep up with everything, and definitely saw that. And I think it was a mixture. I think it was blurring the lines of a shoot and a scripted promo. I think there was definitely some things to what he said that were 100% accurate and 100% just him being Maxwell, as you would say. And there was a little bit of MJF ploy angle to it where it is blurring the line. There's some realism to it, but it was a mix. It was a mix between a shoot and a work. I'll say that. It was wonderful though. The promo, I enjoyed it. I watched it a few different times and definitely got some Ric Flair vibes. And MJF's one of the best dudes out there. I definitely think he's a guy that could make wrestling a bit more popular again because it's not anywhere close to what it was a few years ago. Certainly not the Attitude Era like 20 years ago, but he's a guy he's a difference maker, and that was awesome to see. I loved it.
There we go. So any direct wrestling questions you have for Craig, I will ask him.
Yeah, and the whole thing with, and mostly nobody cares, but MJF, there's a whole to-do about, he's a younger guy that's immensely talented, and there's a whole to-do, rumor mill, about his contract and him wanting out of the company and all that. So basically, he got a microphone, and he's great on the microphone, and he got on there and said his piece. And if you watch wrestling years back, you remember CM Punk in the pipe bomb promo or something like that. That was very much in that same vein. So yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
Chino Miko in the chat room. Miami's rep is why I live over 200 miles north. I've never liked it. So yeah.
We were just talking the break. Like, there's parts of Miami that I really like. It's not my favorite city by any means. Like I said, there's some parts where there's a certain sleaze to it, but I think you can get that in any town. So I'm not just singling them out. And there are other parts where it's like, this is the most beautiful part of America. If you're on the right beach, but yeah, it's a different spot. That's for sure. It's if you're in Florida, it depends on where you are in Florida. If you're in North Florida, South Florida, there's major differences there. If you're on the East Coast or West Coast, there's differences there. It's a big state with a lot of different vibes to it, and Miami certainly has its own unique vibe.
Yeah. Growing up there, the weird thing, I'm from Fort Myers, and then I lived in Tallahassee and Tampa, and it's like, if you meet somebody from Miami, they like think that the Capitol should be there. They think that every event should be there. They think that they should get all the tax dollars because they need it because they're better than all the rest of us.
Right.
And we're like, well, you know, like you have nice beaches, but come on,
they're like the UT of Florida. Is that what you're saying?
Very much so. And so it's kind of weird.
You only exist because of us.
Yeah. And, you know, there's like so many, like there's great places around Miami, like Fort Lauderdale.
There's a lot of cool
nice.
places. Yeah.
You know, I grew up going, my parents had really good friends, had a condo in Fort Lauderdale on the beach. And
I think Miami's an age thing too. Like if you're like in your 20s and on spring break and whatever, like there's not many better places to be. But if you're looking for just like a nice chill vacation, I mean, you can find that there in certain spots, but that's not probably where you're going. It's not top 5.
I would go down, like right now, if you said Florida vacation, go anywhere, I'd go down in the Keys.
Yeah.
Love the Keys.
Yeah,
you know, like just chill out, relax, you know.
Smokey's in Fort Pierce right now.
Yeah.
Which is northern, more towards the Orlando area.
Yeah.
But nice setup on the beach. Very quiet compared to southern Florida, too.
Yeah, it's laid back, which is most of Florida. So Jack Huffman says Sebring is good. Florida sports car race, 12 hours of Sebring. Yeah, I've been fishing in Sebring lots of times in my life. So, you know, yeah, it is weird. It's like, it's one of those things. And I'm sure that, I mean, every state maybe has a town that thinks Texas is unique in that we have, you know, 4 really big majors, or 5, I guess, with El Paso, big major cities that
San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, Austin, El Paso. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have 5 major cities that all live, like, they're far. I mean, you know, Dallas and Houston are so far apart from each other. You know, Austin and San Antonio are close, but Austin still hasn't figured out it's a big city yet. I think
it is now. I think they've embraced that now to the point where that's why you're starting to hear, you know, native Austinites complaining more and more regularly about how it's becoming, you know, corporatized and losing some of its flavor that made it, you know, keep Austin weird. And they're losing some of that because all of the big business coming their way. But part of the changing of the time. So it's lost a little bit of that luster. It's still a cool city, though. But
yeah, I can't figure out if there's a city in Texas that thinks the whole state revolves around it.
I think probably Austin does. Yeah. I think they're the biggest outlier as far as, I think, politically. I mean, I know Houston and Dallas, like, got Democratic representatives and all that, but like Austin is just different. It's always kind of been different, whereas the state leans more conservative. They've definitely the more liberal city, and I think just the growth that they've seen over the last decade, especially, has you know, changed the kind of feel of the city, but it's booming, it's blossoming, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Austin is the most different, you know. And I think of the movie Bernie, where the guy says there's like different parts to Texas. You know, San Antonio is, you know, where the Tex meets the Mex, and Houston's the carcinogenic coast, and Dallas is kind of hoity-toity, and and you know, then you got the piney woods, and you know, then you know, like, you know, west, south, and West Texas is different. And I think the joke was, you know, notice I left the panhandle out, and most people normally do. Austin, the People's Republic of Austin, is what he called it.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
You know, so that's kind of how it is. So Mike Game says that visiting the South by Southwest Festival in Austin is on his bucket list. Well, plan on walking a lot, Mike. Because it is hard to get around during that.
Yeah, I've never tried to go to South by Southwest, but I definitely have known a lot of people that do. And yeah, there's a lot of walking, but you know, you'll see a great. I mean, if you go to Austin, you're gonna see great live music. I mean, pretty much wherever you look around. So yeah, I could see where that would be a bucket list for some folks. Absolutely.
All right, Craig, from the 817, this last thing we'll discuss before we go to break, but a text about I'm trying to paraphrase this as long. All the conferences are overheard looking perhaps the best university candidate for addition. No one is mentioning the San Diego State Aztecs. The record of the Mountain West is among the best. They have a big-time coach in Brady Hoke, and we can argue with that. But most attractive, they have terrific facilities, a brand new stadium. But most attractive to conferences is the recruiting in San Diego County. They have the most Heisman Trophy winners of any city in 4. Reggie Bush and Ricky Williams among them. Or what's Ricky Williams' new name?
Oh, I don't even remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
Eric something.
Eric,
his wife's last name.
Yes, exactly.
But also with the NFL abandoning San Diego, the county of about 4 million people plus are hungry for football. The flight to San Diego is only about 15 minutes more than Salt Lake City when you add the time to get to Provo. It would be less time than when you arrive at your hotel in San Diego overall. Aztecs are better fit in the Big 12 than any other school, but they are blind to that fact. So, you know.
Eric Myron's his name now,
Eric Myron,
so I'm
yes.
sure everybody will remember that. I'll have to look that up again next time he gets brought up. I mean, I've seen San Diego State mentioned before, and we definitely, during the season when there was a lot of fervor over expansion, took a few San Diego State suggestions. I mean, I think you outline a really good, resume for them, and I certainly would love to plan on a San Diego road trip every couple of years. That would be fantastic. That's like the number one city on my list of places I do want to go because it just seems right up my alley.
I don't think I could live in California except if I was in San Diego.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, if it's anything like most of Southern California that I've been to, but better, then yeah, I think I'd fall in love pretty quickly. So yeah, I'd love that. I don't know what the hold up or the hang up is. I don't know if it's they're just behind too many others, or if just right now expansion's kind of settled in and, we had all the big dust up and all that over the summer and then everybody kind of calmed down a little bit. But I don't think that they're necessarily out of ever joining, the Big 12 or another conference, but I just think they're behind other teams. And I see the appeal, like you said, but I don't know what the missing piece is there. I don't know why it is, other than just location or the politics in play in California or what it is. I don't know why they're not considered bigger contenders exactly, but I'm sure somebody could point us in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, I would be tempted by, again, the thing though with expansion is it all sounds great, all sounds fun, but you've got to make the conference money. And so can San Diego State make them money? If they can, then I'm sure somebody will be interested. But if you have to enter them into the mix and, everybody's making $2 million less on their TV contracts because now there's another team eating a piece of the pie, well, they're not going to fly and go for that. So, I don't know what it is exactly.
Well, I would think they do track, though, a little bit with the, look, Orlando is a big metropolitan market. Houston's a massive metropolitan market. Cincinnati's a big metropolitan market. Now, Provo doesn't fall in that category, but BYU has a fan base that far exceeds the city they're in, because
it's a whole religion.
Yeah, it's a whole, exactly. They're much like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So San Diego being, a city, 4 million people tracks to add a big market, add that in. So, which is why Memphis kind of makes sense. And San Diego's obviously a lot bigger than Memphis. So that's why that kind of makes sense to me based on what they've done outside of, with the other ones. So, I mean, it makes sense. I'd be all for it. I love San Diego. I haven't been since Baylor was in the Holiday Bowl. It's absolutely fantastic. Gaslamp is great. I have no complaints about San Diego other than high real estate prices, and nobody's paying me to live there, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a travel situation. I know you're already going out to Utah, but I mean, now you add even further travel. How often would West Virginia play San Diego State? And that would be a nightmare if you had to do that regularly for those two teams. So I don't know. I mean, it makes sense to couple up BYU with some teams out there. That's why you see Boise State mentioned quite a bit. But I don't know enough. I won't pretend to be radio guy who pretends to know everything about everything. I do not know enough about why San Diego State's not considered more, whether that be attendance figures or whether that be TV ratings or funding or what. I don't know. But, location-wise, it sounds great.
Yeah. From Tony, they don't attract a lot of fans in the TV market already. UCLA TV market. New stadium is tiny but beautiful. Similar issues for why the Chargers moved TV market-wise, so.
And I know there are some diehard San Diego State fans like the texter there, and there's a couple people on Twitter who I feel like I see pretty regularly whenever there's certain topics brought up. But I do wonder, I did wonder initially about attendance and kind of, it's just different in Southern California, as we've established, even Los Angeles. It's a pro sports town, so I don't live in never been to San Diego. It's number one on my list, but I can see where that would play into things.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, the top 5 at 5:55. This is Sick and 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 555.
Top 5 non-conference matchups as we get close to the season. So this one, I don't know if I really believe it, but Garrett and I will be battling on this one. Number 5, LSU versus FSU, which is in New Orleans, and then they play again either next year or the year after in Orlando. I'm not sure if it's 2023 or 2024 when they do that return game, but they play in Orlando. I don't know how this is going to go. Like, I am more optimistic than I would have been a year ago had this game been played, and the only reason I am is because I don't know what's really going on at LSU, Garrett.
LSU has a lot of turnover. When you look at the rosters, I think they're probably about similar. I would give LSU a little more depth talent,
and they have a better coach.
And I think that's really the key factor is when you get down to Brian Kelly, Mike Norvell. I mean, I'm taking Brian Kelly all day.
Yeah. Craig, do I have a shot in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think they got a shot. There are a lot of questions about LSU. I mean, I would lean LSU here for the reasons you guys said, but I do think there's been enough turnover and there's enough uncertainty that, it's not a guarantee that Brian Kelly will be super successful year number one. So I could see Florida State, winning this game. I mean, Norvell needs to. Yeah. He needs a win like this. So, yeah, this is interesting because it's not two great teams. It's two teams that are trying to be great, and we don't really know how good either one of them are right now.
Yeah, they almost beat Brian Kelly last year, early in the year, and would would have probably changed the whole season had they
and
held
this
on and won that game.
Also feels like a game where, it'll happen early enough to where people will make huge
ridiculous predictions.
Yes, if LSU wins this game, like Brian Kelly's got it, or if FSU wins this game, they're back or whatever. Like I can already see those knee-jerk reactions coming out of this one. But yeah, I think this is kind of a mystery of a game.
They're back when I'm on Fanatics at the end of the year ordering gear.
Exactly.
That's when they're back.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not getting excited until then. Number 4, BYU versus Notre Dame, which is in Las Vegas, this is another one. The winner gets to be right for a year, I guess. Bowl game, but one group of fan bases will be really deep in the casinos, and the other one will just show up on game day. But I'm excited to see this one. I don't know when the last time I haven't gone to Winsipedia and checked this, but BYU and Notre Dame, I think this would be great. BYU's got a great schedule all the time, and I'm excited for this one too.
Yeah, with two religious schools clashing, I mean, what better place than Las Vegas for all of their fans to descend?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that just,
Sin City.
Just makes all the sense in the world. But, yeah, I mean, it's a big opportunity for Kalani Sitake and company to carve out a really nice win in early October. I mean, I would lean Notre Dame here, obviously. But Marcus Freeman, as great as he has been at pretty much everything that he's touched so far, I mean, he's still got to go out there and coach, you know? And that's a thing. It's a thing with this off-season stuff is, I've seen too many. I'm kind of jaded at this point because I've seen too many off seasons where a program hires that coach, they get that initial burst of love and newness and all that, and everything's the greatest it's ever been, and that's fan bases who are thirsty for success, and they embrace it all. And then, the guy might not be that great of a coach when it all turns out. I do think Marcus Freeman is going to be a good coach. But yeah, it's a very interesting matchup. I would lean Notre Dame, but I mean, there's enough questions on their side that it's not a given by any means. And Sitake and BYU will come, ready to fight. So that'll be a good one.
Yeah, the BYU is taking on both the Catholics and Baptists.
Yes, they are.
In 2022. Number 3, Miami at Texas A&M. This one should be pretty interesting for both of them. Jimbo Fisher actually, when he was at FSU, had a great record against Miami. Miami was very much in the deepest throes of their suckiness at this time. And but Miami with Mario Cristobal coming in, this is a big statement. Would be a big statement win for him on the road. Be a big statement non-con win for A&M. At home for Jimbo Fisher, and A&M doesn't have as many questions as Miami maybe does, but the biggest one is quarterback, and it's probably going to be Haynes King, but this is the game where it's really going to show out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in what Mario Cristobal does in year number 1. There's again, another team with a lot of excitement over a brand new head coach. Now, I think he's obviously more of a sure thing than somebody who hasn't really done it before. I mean, he's now had plenty of experience, but I'd go with A&M in this game. I do think they're pretty loaded up, and at some point they're building and they're building. It's time to okay, now you win this game. If you're A&M, you know what I mean? Like, they've been building now for 6 years, 7 years, and it's always like there's this piece missing or that piece missing to put them over the top. I feel like they're about to, at a point now where everything should be in place for them to go and be as good as they can be. But Miami, good quarterback, and Cristobal's made a lot of changes. So that's a just a kind of random meeting of two teams, Miami and A&M, because I don't necessarily think of one and the other together in any type of a way, but it makes for a really interesting non-conference matchup. I'd love to see that.
They played a few times in the last few years.
No, they have. They have. It's kind of seemed almost regular in a way that they've met up. But yeah, I mean, just two really different types of schools, and glad they came together to give us a unique matchup like this.
Number 2, Bama at Texas. Now, this is probably going to be the number 1. Maybe, I don't know. The number 1 game is to me, because both the teams are better than Texas has been over the last few years. This is going to be a huge one. It's going to be, Texas is going to put a lot of eggs in this basket, I think. I don't think they're probably near good enough to beat Bama yet, but we'll see. I mean, we'll kind of see. And no matter how good or bad Texas is, look, a couple years ago, they probably played the best game against LSU that anybody played against Joe Burrow all year. And they weren't very good that year ultimately. But, I could see Texas, making a lot of noise in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I can see them competing. I would not pick them to win, but it's in Austin, and, there's a lot of buzz right now. You've got your new quarterback, and you've got your big-time receiver and running back coming back. I still think there are major questions in other areas of importance, like offensive line. So I don't know how – I think we'll get to learn a lot about their O-line and how they're going to hold up probably through, a majority of the season just based on this game. Not that everybody's going to have a D-line or defense set up like Bama, but we'll get to see what's what, like really, kind of where they are pretty quickly and what deficiencies there might be there. But, yeah, I would lean Bama. But, hey, on the road early in the season, a lot of hype. Sarkisian's a good coach. I could see this getting really interesting. And, if they were to win this game, I'm sure it would be like when they beat Notre Dame and they were back and, nearly beat LSU, and it felt like they were back, and they haven't been back. But you win this game, I don't care how it happens. I would consider them, not back, because I think that's become just tiresome at this point, but it would mean something. It would mean a lot if they were to win that game, clearly.
Yeah. And number 1, Notre Dame at Ohio State. It's been a minute since these two teams have played in the regular season, and
it's going to be interesting with Texas and Alabama is if that's a blowout.
Yeah.
Like I'll be curious. Like, I don't think Texas is going to blow them out, but if Alabama goes in there and blows them out, that would be interesting. I don't necessarily expect that, but that would be interesting.
Yeah. No, I don't expect it either. Especially, Texas. They're going to play good in that game. I'm telling you.
They'll get up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to play pretty good in that game. Notre Dame at Ohio State. This one might be a little bit more exciting to me, even though it's the number 1. If Notre Dame had a quarterback settled, especially since they're going against one of the 2 best in the country in C.J. Stroud in this game. But Ohio State's going to have a high-flying offense. We'll see if Marcus Freeman and the defense can kind of contain them. But this one to me, you don't get 2 bigger brand name. The last 4 teams we've had in this list are 4 of the 5 biggest brands in college football.
Yeah, this is what we get excited about, are these big-time non-con, premier matchups. And what number would you venture to guess on how many times these teams have played each other?
I don't think it's really that much.
They played each other 6 times.
Yeah.
In history. Notre Dame won way back, or there was a tie, actually, 1935, the first time these teams played. 1935, Notre Dame won 18-13. They played 1936, and I believe Notre Dame won that one as well. But then they didn't play from 1936 all the way until 1995, and they played in 95-96, which Ohio State won. They played again in 06, which Ohio State won, and then they played in 2016, which Ohio State won. So Ohio State 4-2. And the first time in 6 years that they've played, but they have not played often. So kind of interesting that they haven't met that often, given their successes. So that'll make that a lot of fun.
And their proximity, it would mostly be in the postseason, but Notre Dame didn't play in the postseason for a long time. And there was a beef for a long time in the 60s and 70s that Big Ten teams didn't necessarily want to play Notre Dame like Ohio State didn't, because they, thought Notre Dame was kind of harsh in their mellow. So
yeah, but this is something we would only see, like most recently in the college football playoff. But yeah, we could see it in regular season and pretty early on. So that'll be a kick-ass matchup.
So a little bit of breaking news. Wait, that's not what. Okay, Jonathan Givony reported that Kendall Brown had withdrawn his name, but he has not withdrawn his name from the NBA draft. Emery Winter just sent me this. He said this like, oh, hello. Baylor's about to find a roster spot real quick.
Yeah.
If that was true, because it's too late for him to transfer as well had he done that. So no, but his team believes that this is a mistake and looking into rectifying it. He intends on being NBA draft eligible on June 23rd.
Yeah, so. He's going to be a top 15 pick, so that would be the dumbest thing in the world to withdraw your name. And it looks like it must have been just a typing error or an input error on the website or something, because no, that would be shocking. And man, I would love though to see if it was true and what the phone call to Scott Drew would be like. Yeah. I'd love to be a live look in on that, but no, that's not happening.
Yeah, Kendall Kaut just tweeted, "We'll always have the 30 seconds I tried to run down if KB was coming back."
Yeah.
So there you go. But he's not.
Would have been nice, but no.
Yeah, Emery sent that to me, and I was like, "Holy cow, that's kind of wild." Don't know why you would have done that. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're back tomorrow. We'll have Mac Rhodes. We'll ask him about the Baylor baseball coaching search and more. Thanks to everybody who's been a part of the show. Thanks to Jack. Thanks to Leroy. Thanks to Emery. Thanks to Garrett, of course, Craig, and all our guests. This is Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. See you tomorrow, everybody.